American TV series, starting to profit from young Sheldon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276. Make the best of a mistake. The small town of Telford, which does not have many entertainment activities, appears quiet and peaceful after midnight. Under the moonlight, a Rolls-Royce Phantom with a domineering appearance and a powerful engine sound broke the tranquility. Not long after, the car came straight to the door of Connor's grandmother's house and stopped. Then, there was a slight knock on the door outside the house. Under the moonlight, Collins, who was wearing a decent printed long dress and delicate light makeup on her face, must have dressed up in advance for this action. The door opened, and Mike appeared in front of the girl against the light. Mike, Collins, who had prepared to confess in advance, found that he couldn't even speak clearly because of nervousness when he saw the real owner. After so much effort, he didn't even have the courage to confess. The girl was instantly engulfed by regret and self-blame. Collins, who had lost his courage, dared not look into Mike's eyes again and could only lower his head in shame. "Did you have a smooth journey?" Mike, who had guessed it long ago, greeted the girl as if he was facing an old friend. "Come in and sit down first." The girl's behavior this time can be said to be both bold and crazy, but now is not the time to pursue responsibility. And to be honest, Mike was also under a lot of pressure before, and he was really relieved when the girl appeared. "Oh, okay. Thank you." Collins, whose confession plan failed, mechanically followed Mike into the room. At this point, the situation couldn't be worse. After hitting the bottom and rebounding, the girl also calmed down completely and even had time to reflect on the reasons for her failure this time. At this time, Grandma Connie and Peggy, who heard the movement outside, walked out of the room at the same time. Peggy, on her side, looked at Collins, whose hair was a little messy and his expression was embarrassed in the living room, and turned back to the room. Little girls are generally more sensible than boys. Moreover, Peggy has her own pride. Although she usually looks easy to talk to, in fact, she, like little Sheldon, believes that humans and monkeys cannot be true companions. The explanation is that there is a natural gap between geniuses with super high IQs and ordinary people. Ordinary people simply cannot understand the world of geniuses. Categorized in this way, the three geniuses Mike, Sheldon Jr. and Peggy are naturally in the same camp. Therefore, Peggy doesn't care how many girls Mike dates, because she knows that she is the only one who will accompany him to the end. This is the confidence of a genius. In this case, Peggy, who is confident in her appearance, understands that the only problem between her and Mike is time. Peggy needs to grow up quickly and become a big beauty. This can also explain why Peggy was angry when she heard Mike say that she was not tall. On the other side, Grandma Connie, who also appeared in the living room, looked at the girl next to Mike and was a little surprised at first and then smiled knowingly. She has a very good mentality and her favorite thing is to eat melons. "Mike, there are steaks and red wine in the refrigerator. You can enjoy them with this girl." After greeting the two, Grandma Connie gave Mike a meaningful look and then turned back to her room. Alas, people are old, easy to fall asleep, ears are not so good. Accompanying Grandma Connie's departure, there are also her mumblings. Although it sounded like an old man lamenting that time was not forgiving, Mike knew that Grandma Connie was implicitly reminding him that no one would disturb his good thing tonight. "Do you need to eat something first?" Mike asked the girl when there were only two people left in the living room. "No, I'm not hungry." Collins had to be polite because of his good upbringing, but his stomach just happened to make a gurgling sound at this time, so the girl couldn't say anything else. A blush climbed up the girl's cheeks. "You haven't had dinner yet?" Mike asked in surprise. The girl was thinking about confessing before, and she left in a hurry when she came, and she really didn't have time to eat dinner. At this moment, she hadn't even confessed yet, and accidents happened one after another. Things seemed to be developing in a strange direction. Collins, who discovered this, looked more and more embarrassed. Well, without the other party answering, looking at the girl's reaction, Mike understood everything. Have some snacks first. I'll go make you something to eat. There were small snacks such as dried fruits and biscuits on the table in the living room. After Mike told the girl, he went to the refrigerator to get some ingredients and went straight to the kitchen. Soon, a simple dinner was ready, including a grilled steak and a cup of hot milk. When Mike brought out the food, Colin seemed to have sorted out his mood. The girl, who sat dignified on the sofa, had a calm expression and exuded a different kind of charm. Thank you. After the food was placed in front of him, Collins thanked her politely and then enjoyed this late dinner. Don't say it. People who have received a good family education are different. Even eating reveals elegance. You come here alone this late at night. Are you going to elope with me? After the girl had almost finished eating, Mike asked with some bad taste. A perfect version in the 16-9 book bar. He didn't forget how much trouble this elegant girl had caused him before. You know, if Collins really has an accident this time, Zio Shane's family will definitely find Mike. Ahem, ahem. I didn't. The sudden question almost choked Collins. After tidying up the messed up plates in front of her, she turned to look at Mike and confessed, I came here this time to tell you that I like you. You can ignore these, but I still want you to know. Maybe it was to avoid regrets, or it could be because Collins was about to go to college and thought that the two would have no chance to meet again in the future. So, the girl said everything in her heart. After that, she stared at Mike nervously, as if waiting for the other party to make a judgment. Would you like some red wine? After Mike was silent for a while, he took 2 glasses of red wine from the side, handed one to the girl to calm her down, and then continued, actually, I'm not that picky about girls. As long as they are pretty enough, I like them. You just happen to fit my aesthetic. This is a pure scumbag speech. Collins obviously understood what Mike wanted to express, and his expression became extremely complicated. Girls at the age of fantasy must hope to gain a pure love. And Mike's answer is very uncomfortable. Good news, Mike seems to have feelings for Collins. Bad news, Collins can't be the only one. Give me another glass of wine. Collins, who was entangled again, drank the red wine in his hand in one gulp. Are you sure you want to drink more? Mike asked seriously. In this case, if the wine is drunk, there will be something to say. Drink, why not? Collins, who had just drunk a glass of red wine, seemed to be drunk. The man has feelings for the concubine, and Mike is not at a disadvantage, so there is naturally no reason to stop it. With a few glasses of wine, Collins became bolder, and his eyes staring at Mike's handsome face became more and more presumptuous. She needs to vent now. So, a drink slowly moved from the living room to Mike's room. Charm plus 20. Flexibility plus 3. Dancing experience plus 66. It must be said that Collins is worthy of being the cheerleader of their school. Not only is her appearance comparable to Regina and other girls, her kung fu is also not worse than Regina's. Chapter 277 Communication. The next morning, Grandma Connie was baking beef jerky and gingerbread and other easy to preserve foods in the kitchen, obviously preparing dry food for George's trip. When she saw Mike coming out, she smiled and joked, Mike, is your girlfriend still awake? At the same time, in the dining room connected to the kitchen, Peggy was eating breakfast. When she saw Mike, the little girl glared at him fiercely with a look of scum. You know, the noise Mike made last night was not small. Well, Collins went to bed late yesterday and won't get up until later, Mike explained. Because it was the first time, and with all kinds of emotional buffs, Collins' performance last night can be described as both inexperienced and playful. At this moment, the girl also tasted the bitter fruit of indulgence and was lying in the room to recuperate. Outside, when Mike finished washing and sat in the dining room, Grandma Connie also brought him food. Come and try Grandma's special beef jerky and gingerbread. How do they taste? A plate was placed on the table. In addition to beef jerky and gingerbread, there was only a glass of milk and an apple. This was obviously not a normal breakfast. Why is ours different? Mike looked at the food in front of him, and then looked at the nutritious breakfast in front of Peggy. It is worth mentioning that the food in front of the little girl includes delicious sandwiches, fried eggs and fried sausages, and the rest is vegetable and fruit salad and a large glass of milk. This kind of breakfast can be called rich. That's what Peggy specifically asked for. If you want to eat it, Grandma can make it for you later. Having said that, Grandma Connie did not mean to make a new breakfast. This is obviously a different treatment. Forget it, this jerky looks good, Mike answered with a discerning eye. In fact, if you don't compare it with Peggy, the breakfast in front of Mike has both meat and vegetables, as well as milk and apples, which looks okay. After staring at Mike eating the jerky, Grandma Connie immediately asked, "How is it? These jerky are dry food for George's future travels, and it is very important whether they taste good. It tastes good and can fill your stomach." Mike gave a fair evaluation. Beef is rich in fiber, and it is chewy after baking. Moreover, in the process of making these beef jerky, Grandma Connie's special barbecue recipe is added, so the taste is needless to say. It seems that the beef jerky is made successfully. Hearing the good comments, Grandma Connie smiled. Then, she sat opposite Mike leisurely, tore off a small piece of beef from the plate, and while tasting it, she lowered her voice and gossiped, "Mike, what's the situation with that girl last night? I haven't seen her before." Peggy, who was eating breakfast diligently, also pricked up her ears. "You said Collins. She is a student of St. Mary's High School, and she just graduated this year. To be honest, I don't know much about her. We just met in the summer league last year." Mike briefly explained his relationship with Collins, but the more she listened, the weirder Grandma Connie's expression became. In the end, she also had contempt in her eyes like Peggy. Grandma Connie was originally a playful person, so she had seen a lot of scumbags, but it was rare to see someone as special as Mike. "Take your time to eat. Grandma will continue to make beef jerky." After satisfying her curiosity, Grandma Connie got up and went back to the kitchen. There were only 2 days left before the high school started, and she needed to make some more beef jerky to prepare for little George, who was about to leave. In the dining room, Mike chewed his dry food and drank the milk in one gulp. He stood up and prepared to go back to his room to spend some time with Collins. After all, this good girl was about to go to college, and it was likely that the two would not see each other for half a year. They had just confirmed their relationship and had to separate. If they didn't seize the time to communicate more, it would be a loss, no matter how they thought about it. "Mike, bring this breakfast to Collins." When Mike passed by the kitchen, Grandma Connie just brought out a hearty breakfast. There were sandwiches, fried eggs and sausages, and some baked desserts and beef jerky on the side. This breakfast was no worse than Peggy's food. Looking at Grandma Connie's smiling face, Mike was sure that the other party was treating him differently. Very good, that's how it should be played, right? Mike, who couldn't afford to offend Grandma Connie, decided to treat Collins well later. Flexibility +1. Flexibility +1. Dance experience +66. Dance experience +66. 2 hours later, Collins, who had passively finished her morning exercises, left the room with a faint ruddy color on her face. From Mike, the girl already knew that her family was looking for her. Therefore, Collins needed to go home quickly and give an explanation to her parents. "Collins, do you mind chatting with an old man like me?" In the living room, Grandma Connie sat on the sofa, as if waiting for Collins. Okay, Collins, who was guilty of being a thief, was shocked by being caught by the parents. Then her good upbringing made her sit down next to Grandma Connie in a proper manner. "Don't be nervous, kid. My name is Connie. You can call me Grandma Connie like Mike and the others." Looking at the girl's well-behaved appearance, Grandma Connie asked gently, "Are you satisfied with the previous breakfast? A correct version of the book in 1619. "Very satisfied. It tastes great. Thank you for your concern." Grandma Collins was a little embarrassed in his politeness. "That's good." Grandma Connie continued to ask, as if she was chatting with her family, "Can you tell me what your parents do?" Generally, a person's upbringing will be greatly influenced by the family. Collins's performance proved that her family was not bad. "My father is in business, and my mother is now a full-time housewife." Facing Mike's parent, Collins almost answered every question. Then, Grandma Connie also learned a lot of news from the girl. The family is wealthy, has a smart and sensible younger brother, and the family has adopted a poor black boy. Overall, the Collins family is both rich and loving. The more she knows, the more Grandma Connie realizes the goodness of Collins. This is an absolutely good girl. "Okay, Grandma Connie, I should send Collins home now. After the two chatted for a while, Mike spoke up to rescue Collins. It is not an easy thing to talk to parents. Even though Collins is very well mannered, he still copes with this kind of thing very reluctantly. Look at my brain. I almost forgot the time when I was so happy talking. Grandma Connie said regretfully. Collins, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Next time when you are free, come to Grandma's house again. Grandma will make you a special barbecue. Okay, Grandma Connie. I will definitely come to see you again when I'm free. Collins stood up and said goodbye. The girl who did not return home overnight really needs to go home quickly. Seeing the girl follow Mike to the door, Grandma Connie seemed to remember something. While walking to the kitchen, she shouted, Collins, wait a minute. I just made some snacks here. You can take them home and taste them with your family. It can be seen that Grandma Connie really likes Collins, a beautiful girl who has only known her for a short time. A few minutes later, Collins, carrying a bag of biscuits and beef jerky, said goodbye to Grandma Connie again. On the street outside the house, George was wiping the white RV again, but today he couldn't stop looking at the Rolls-Royce luxury car next to Connie's grandmother's house. Seeing Mike coming out, George seemed to have found someone to talk to, and excitedly said, Mike, did you see that Rolls-Royce? It's a Phantom series that has just been released. I don't know who bought the car, and it's parked in front of Connie's grandmother's house. A man may not be able to afford a luxury car, but he will definitely be interested in luxury cars. The Rolls-Royce Phantom series of the Collins family has only been released for a short time, and the price is about 1 million yuan or more. Luxury cars of this price are the focus of envy in everyone's eyes, no matter where they are, let alone in a remote town like Telford. Let's put it this way, the money George spent on the RV may not be enough to pay for the maintenance of the Collins family's luxury car. Therefore, George's excitement now is also understandable. Chapter 278, The Will-O-Wisp Boy and Old Deng. Rolls-Royce Phantom is an absolute luxury in this era, and ordinary people don't have many opportunities to see it. As soon as Mike went out, he was a little surprised to see the luxury car parked outside the house. According to the price, this car is worth half of his wealth. So, Collins is still too low-key. If Mike had known that she was so beautiful and her family was so rich, he would have established a good relationship with this girl long ago. Just as Mike was thinking divergently, Collins, who followed him, pressed the car key in his hand. Beep, beep. With the unique prompt sound of luxury cars, the lights of the Rolls-Royce outside the door flashed, and the car door was automatically unlocked. Semi-automatic remote control system. Like today's aerospace technology, the semi-automatic system currently researched by Rolls-Royce is also cutting-edge technology in the luxury car series. Which man doesn't want to have an obedient luxury car? Across the way, little George, who was chattering, looked at the girl holding the luxury car key next to Mike and fell silent. You know, the three girls who gave Mike the Ferrari sports car had just left not long ago, and now the other party seemed to have hooked up with a better girl. It was a million-ton blow to the single little George, who could understand this pain. Hi, little George. This is Collins. After introducing Collins, Mike turned to the girl and introduced, that's little George who lives across the street. He is my good friend. Hello, little George. Hello. After Mike introduced them, the two greeted each other across the street. During this time, little George awkwardly blocked in front of his RV, as if he wanted to hide the RV. However, Collins did not notice this. After greeting little George, she discussed with Mike about going home. After all, the girl was running away from home this time. Not long after, the girl decided to go home and lie to her parents that she went to her friend's house to play last night. Afterwards, when Mike drove his Ferrari sports car next to the Rolls-Royce, he suggested that he and the girl take turns driving. To be honest, Mike had never driven a $1 million luxury car, and he wanted to experience it out of curiosity. In the back, watching Mike change into a Rolls-Royce and drive away, little George shed tears of envy. After such a toss, he instantly felt that his newly bought second-hand RV was not so good. It was almost lunchtime, and Mike, who had experienced the various performances of Rolls-Royce along the way, accompanied Collins back to St. Mary's District. Don't say it. This luxury car is expensive for a reason. The driving force and suspension system are not comparable to ordinary cars. Even if you go to whack in a mountain, you can compete with 86. Then, the two cars slowly stopped in front of a luxurious villa. Compared with Regina's villa, this villa in front of you looks more luxurious, and the surrounding security facilities are complete. Obviously, the super rich Mr. Scene is a particular person. Mike, that's enough. You go back first, and I'll find you when I'm on vacation. Collins didn't intend to involve Mike in his troubles, so he said goodbye to him at the door. In such a short time, the girl was not ready to introduce her boyfriend to her family. Okay, Mike, who had $2 million in startup capital, did not rush to curry favor with Collins' family. Everything should be fine as it goes. Before parting, the girl hugged Mike again and kissed him like dry wood meeting fire. This farewell kiss lasted for 5 minutes in the girl's ecstasy, and there was a trend of continuing. Cough at this time. Mr. Scene, who was hiding by the car behind, finally couldn't stand it and interrupted his daughter's good thing. Dad, Little Scene and Big Michael, why are you here? Collins, who was interrupted in the farewell process, turned around and saw a group of family members. Although the current situation is very embarrassing, the girl still took a step forward after reacting and faintly protected Mike behind her. On the opposite side, Mr. Scene, who was watching his own cabbage being eaten, had a slightly dark face and stared at Mike with sharp eyes. As for the big guy Michael, he was also curiously watching Mike and Collins. Perhaps influenced by Mr. Scene, Michael deliberately made a fierce expression on his face. It was just because of his personality that, even if Michael wanted to be fierce, his silly and gentle face was not scary. Next to him was the embarrassed, but polite smile of Little Scene. It was probably because he did not keep the secret for Mike and the others as promised. Little Scene was a little afraid to look into Mike's eyes now. Yes, the reason why Mr. Scene and the other two appeared here to catch people was because Little Scene could not resist the interrogation of his parents before and revealed the news about his sister. A perfect version in 1619 book bar. Collins, where did you go last night? After examining Mike, Mr. Scene turned his eyes back to his daughter. I went to a farewell party at my friend's house yesterday. I played late, so I didn't have time to come back. Collins said the excuse he had thought of long ago. It was reasonable to organize a farewell party for friends who graduated from high school. It is also reasonable for the girlfriends who are about to part to stay overnight and chat about private matters. It can be said that the excuses Collins found are very logical and convincing. Of course, this is when the other party is unaware. Obviously, Mr. Scene is not one of them. After glaring at his daughter who was a little uneasy while lying, his eyes moved to Mike, the troublemaker again. Boy, why haven't I seen you before? Which school are you from? When facing Mike, Mr. Scene's tone was full of dissatisfaction. Mike had no doubt that, if Collins was not present, the other party would probably come up and bite him. Dad, you forgot, he is Mike, the running back of the Melford football team. We just met at the invitational game before, and his posters are all in my sister's room. Perhaps in order to make up for his mistakes, Little Scene took the initiative to help Mike explain, in order to ease the atmosphere. You are so smart. Mr. Scene slapped his youngest son's head angrily. Mike performed so well in several games with the St. Mary's football team. How could Mr. Scene not remember him? He was just upset with the guy who had seduced his daughter, so he wanted to embarrass him. But after his youngest son's attack, Mr. Scene's emotions disappeared. Hello, Mr. Scene. I'm Mike from Melford High School. We've met before at a football game. Mike found the right time and gave Mr. Scene a way out. I remember that you're a running back for the Melford football team. For the sake of his daughter, Scene, the old father, had to suppress his anger temporarily and then casually invited him. It's almost lunchtime. Come to my house for a simple meal. Well, in fact, how could Mr. Scene let the other party go so easily before he had dug out all the information about Mike? However, no matter how dissatisfied he was in his heart, Mr. Scene's move was also a goodwill to Mike. So, Michael and Scene, who came together to block the man, showed sincere smiles on their faces. To be honest, Mike didn't leave a bad impression on them. As a group of people walked towards the gate of the villa, Collins, who was at the back, whispered to Mike, "My family is actually very easy to get along with. If they ask you some strange questions later, it doesn't matter if you don't want to answer. I'll be with you." As she said that, the girl quietly shook Mike's hand. Mike didn't know whether the girl's family was easy to get along with or not, but he knew that if someone kidnapped his little girl, he would definitely not be difficult to get along with. I guess Mr. Scene's mood now is probably the same. It's just that in front of his daughter, the old father seemed to want to maintain a little decency. Chapter 279, The Will-O-Wisp Boy and Leodang, continued. The wooden floor is matched with a soft wool carpet, which is very comfortable to step on. The spiral two-story building design is retro and mysterious. In addition, the Collins family's villa exudes a sense of grandeur everywhere. In terms of area, the living room on the first floor alone is about 80 square meters. In addition, the gorgeous crystal ceiling in the stair compartment, which falls directly from the second floor to the first floor, is luxurious in the atmosphere. Of course, in addition to these hardware facilities, the sofas, tables, chairs and other living utensils in the house are placed very casually. This also makes the whole villa more warm. Perhaps hearing the movement outside, a blonde lady with precious jewelry on her neck and a cute apron in front of her came out of the kitchen. "Collins, you know how worried mom is when I can't see you when I come back." Ms. Ann, also known as Mrs. Tosi, went past her husband to the back of the crowd and gave her daughter a big hug. Then, the lady saw the handsome Mike next to her daughter. Mrs. Tosi, who was still sentimental the previous second, left her daughter and went to Mike with shining eyes the next second. Mrs. Tosi, who is nearly 40 years old this year, has maintained herself very well, with a plump beauty in her intellectuality. She is also very well dressed, with the style of a wealthy lady. Standing with her daughter, she is as charming as a penny. Even in terms of temperament, she is more attractive than her daughter. It is worth mentioning that this beautiful lady is also very loving. It was she who decided to adopt Michael first. Of course, Mrs. Tosi, who has so many advantages, also has her own hobbies. She is an absolute member of the Appearance Association. To explain, it is a face control, or a flower maniac or something. At this time, the lady seemed to be drunk, and she circled around Mike twice without blinking, and then said enthusiastically, "You are the new football star, Mike, and Colin's room is full of your posters. So, may I ask, are you in love with my daughter now?" Never underestimate a face lover and the eye for discovering beauty. Mom, seeing his mother's eyes almost sticking to Mike, Collins felt embarrassed and a little jealous. "Collins, I didn't expect you to really get this handsome guy." "Well done." Mrs. Tosi quietly gave her daughter a thumbs up and then encouraged her daughter with her eyes blinking. It felt like her daughter had taken advantage of a lot. "Annie, this kid will stay here for lunch. You go make something delicious and treat our guests well." Seeing his wife's crazy performance, Mr. Scene also had the urge to cover his face. He even doubted whether it was the right decision to call Mike home. Judging from the current situation, it seems that his wife can't be relied on to carry out the interrogation plan. It's not Mr. Scene's fault for misjudging. You know, at the previous spring football invitational, the couple had discussed the issue of their daughter's love because of Mike. Mrs. Tosi's attitude was not like this at that time. Who knew that, now that she was hit by Mike's appearance at close range, she completely forgot her position. To sum up, it can only be said that Mr. Scene underestimated the lethality of appearance to face control. Okay, hearing her husband's words, Mrs. Tosi nodded and then looked at Mike again and asked, "Mike, do you want to eat anything? How about a seafood dinner?" "I'm fine," Mike answered obediently. This obedient appearance made Mrs. Tosi very satisfied. After appreciating Mike's appearance again, the lady reluctantly went to the kitchen. "Mike, please sit down first." "Little Scene, go get Mike something to drink." After Mr. Scene arranged Mike, he said to the two remaining people in the room, "Collins, Big Michael, come with me, I'll discuss things with you." Although his wife was a little unreliable, Mr. Scene decided to plan the interrogation plan later. "Mike, what do you want to drink? Juice, milk, coffee, or some beer?" After his father left, Little Scene was obviously relaxed. "No, just give me a bottle of ice water." Mike suggested that it would feel good to drink a glass of ice water in the hot summer. Hearing this, Scene went to the refrigerator to get a bottle of mineral water and threw it to Mike. He took a box of strawberry yogurt and collapsed on the huge sofa. After tasting the drink, Scene turned around and said, "You have to be careful later. My dad is probably trying to deal with you." "Thank you for reminding me." Mike smiled and didn't react much. This kind of thing is expected, and it's not worth being too surprised. Alas, the world of adults is really complicated. Scene suddenly sighed. "Why do you say that?" Looking at the other person's little adult look, Mike found it very interesting. This attitude also exists in Missy. Check out the correct version in 16,191 Book 1 bar. Collins is already at the age to fall in love. Even if you are not there will be others. Compared with others, I think you are more suitable for Collins. My dad must know this, and his current worries are completely unnecessary. Scene analyzed rationally. The two of them are considered to be acquainted with each other, so Scene has no resistance to Mike becoming his brother-in-law. He even admires Mike's football ability a little. "Let's not talk about me. Tell me about yourself. What are your hobbies, and what are you going to do in the future?" Mike changed the subject. Little Scene, who is a smart kid, is a good insider, and has the value of winning over in all aspects. "I'm 7 years old, and in the 2nd grade of elementary school. I like football, and want to be a great football player in the future." After all, he is still a child. Little Scene didn't notice Mike's intention, and was looking forward to the future. After that, he also sighed, "But from the genes of my family, my wish to become a football player in the future may not be realized. When I grow up, I will probably take over my dad's business." It has to be said that, although Little Scene is very young, he is a rare sober person. Mr. Scene's height belongs to the category of ordinary people. He is not very tall and strong. As his son, Little Scene's future physique may only be at the level of ordinary people without considering genetic mutations. And football is a sport that requires physical talent, and ordinary people can't play it at all. If Little Scene insists on taking the sports route, he will most likely be a Little George in the future. Or in other words, he may not even be as good as Little George. After all, what Little George said, there is also a coach father who once played professional football. By the way, in addition to these, I also like to collect toys. There are many out-of-print toys in my room. Do you want to go and have a look? It can be seen that Little Scene is in a good mood. Of course, Mike did not interrupt the other party's emotions. Then the two went to the 2nd floor, Little Scene's independent large room. In the spacious room, there is a special shelf on which hardcore toys such as the Train Man, Transformers, and prehistoric dinosaur series are neatly arranged. In some ways, his hobby is a bit like that of little Sheldon. Just when Little Scene was enthusiastically introducing his toys to Mike, Mrs. Tose's voice came from downstairs. "Little Scene, it's time to eat. Bring Mike down quickly. Oh, next time I have a chance, I will introduce you to other toys." Hearing his mother's urging, Little Scene shrugged his shoulders, looking regretful. Obviously, introducing your hobbies to others will also become addictive. Chapter 280 Business Exchange. In the long corridor-like restaurant, there is a long dining table with shiny tabloir, candlesticks, vases and other decorations on the table. The overall layout of the restaurant and the exquisite carved patterns on the wall make the Collins family's restaurant look luxurious. Compared with the Cooper family's simple restaurant, this one is as exquisite as a palace. When Mike and Little Scene arrived, everyone except Mr. Scene had already sat down. Then, when Little Scene sat down next to Big Michael, the entire long dining table was left with only the upper and lower seats. As a guest, Mike was obviously not suitable to sit in the upper seat, so he went to sit at the other end. Looking around, the table was lined with seafood such as king crabs, tuna, lobsters, and oysters. There were also ingredients such as foie gras and caviar on the side. Mrs. Tosi really prepared a sumptuous seafood feast, as she said. And judging from the quality, Anne, a full-time housewife, is a very good cook. "Mike, when are you going to marry Collins?" Mrs. Tosi waited for Mike to sit down with a smile, and then asked the most incisive question, as if chatting about family matters. Ahem. Mike, who had just sat down, was so shocked that he almost jumped up. After calming down, He replied awkwardly, I'm still in high school now, and it's too early for me to get married. The world is so wonderful. Mike doesn't plan to hang himself on a tree, even if the other party is a rich woman. Therefore, the delaying tactic is his best choice now. However, Mrs. Tosi seemed to not understand the atmosphere and continued with a smile. It's not too early. Collins will be a college student soon. I still want to have grandchildren as soon as possible. The latest bill gives college girls the right to have children. Of course, this bill is more about taking care of older female students who are preparing for postgraduate and doctoral examinations. Let them have more choices during their college studies. And this has nothing to do with Collins, who has just been admitted to college and is in a youthful and lively age. Hearing her mother's nonsense, the girl's ears turned red, and she shyly shouted, Mom, haha, look at a little sweetheart being shy. Mrs. Tosia laughed and then said in a relaxed tone, don't worry, I was just joking with Mike. I don't want my baby daughter to suffer so early. As Mrs. Tosi spoke, the atmosphere in the restaurant became relaxed. Little Scene and Big Michael, who were sitting opposite, smiled like quails. Mike, who was sitting at the bottom, breathed a sigh of relief and quietly wiped the non-existent sweat from his forehead. Mrs. Tosi's initial expression just now didn't seem like she was joking. This rich lady is indeed not as simple as she looks. Let's talk about something light. Mrs. Tosi, who seemed to have succeeded in her prank, smiled and then returned to her chat mode. Mike, I heard that you just started playing football last year. How come you are so good at it? I mean, how do you train normally? Big Michael, who was adopted by Mr. Scene's family, has actually only been playing football for more than a year. In terms of physical talent, this Big Michael can be regarded as a son of God. Moreover, the Scene family has seen how hard his training is. It was under such circumstances that Big Michael, as a son of God, repeatedly lost to Mike on the field. Therefore, Mrs. Tosi was very curious about how Mike, who did not look very strong, could achieve his current achievements. As mentioned earlier, with the newspaper's unremitting publicity, Mike has become a well-known sports star in Texas. When Mrs. Tosi asked the question, Big Michael and Little Scene, who were sitting on the side, also showed an interested look. Actually, there is no special method. The main thing is perseverance. Mike would naturally not say that he has a special physique and a special talent to discourage Big Michael's enthusiasm. After all, it is somewhat unfair to compare the talents of ordinary people with those of monsters. Can you tell me more about your usual training projects, so that I can give Michael a reference? Little Scene asked like a little adult. Perhaps because he regarded Michael as his spiritual sustenance, Little Scene devoted a lot of effort to him, including Michael's training plan. Michael, who entered the University of Mississippi as a sports student, will definitely take the road of football career. Now there is an opportunity for him to have a smoother career, and Little Scene will naturally not let it go. Mike, of course, will not be stingy with his training experience. To be honest, he can perform so well on the football field, and his usual training intensity is not low. And Michael, who is on the side, can have the current football strength without the blessing of external plugins, so his diligence and talent must be not bad. Therefore, when Mike talked about his training experience, Michael also exchanged training skills according to his own situation. Before long, the atmosphere in the restaurant became enthusiastic. Mr. Scene, who was a few minutes late, saw this scene when he entered the restaurant. Ahem, Mr. Scene, who was carrying a bottle of Crimson So, coughed twice in a serious manner, declaring his presence. Sure enough, when they heard his cough, Michael and the others also became serious and sat up straight. It was obvious that Mr. Scene had told his family something before. Dad, is your throat uncomfortable? Well, the people who were told did not include Little Scene. At this time, the little guy was also smart. Mr. Scene almost broke down in his heart, but he showed the momentum of a parent on his face and glared at his little son. The threat was self-evident. Okay, Little Scene made a zipper-pulling motion on his mouth in fear and instantly became honest. But where his father could not see, he did not forget to raise his eyebrows to Mike. A correct version of the book in 1619. This little guy's really a smart guy. Then, under the gaze of everyone, Mr. Scene went to the first seat at the top and sat down, his eyes looking over the dining table, oppressively looking at Mike at the first seat at the bottom. So the situation became that on the left hand was Mrs. Tosi and Collins, on the right hand was Michael and Scene, and opposite was Mr. Scene with a serious face. This was the rhythm of a 3-court trial. Mike was not unfamiliar with this situation. He had been treated in this way at Katie's house. As the saying goes, the first time is strange, the second time is familiar, and Mike was still able to remain calm at this time. If I remember correctly, you are only in the 12th grade this year. What are your plans for the future? After a tactical silence for a while, Mr. Scene asked. At this stage, Mr. Scene's chain franchise business has expanded to the catering industry and supermarket retail industry. With his unique business philosophy, he stood at the forefront and made his assets complete the leap. Conservatively estimated, his total assets are now ranked among the top 5 richest people in Texas. Looking at the whole country, he also belongs to the super wealthy class. Coupled with a happy family, Mr. Scene is definitely a winner in life. In this case, his vision and pattern are not bad. Similarly, the vision of choosing a son-in-law is the same. At least the other party cannot be a waste. It's hard to say, but my assets in the stock market will definitely give me more choices in the future. Mike certainly knew what to talk about with Scene, a rich man. Oh, the emerging stock industry. Can you tell me where your confidence lies? Mr. Scene was really interested. As a member of the social elite, he obviously noticed the booming stock market. Relying on the rapid momentum of the real economy, the automatic retail industry, medical industry, and raw materials industry in the stock market are all doing well. As long as you take this ride, it is not difficult to achieve personal assets freedom. Mike, who has a forward-looking vision, can be regarded as a bird's eye view when talking about the economic trend. Nowadays, the stock market is very large, and Mike doesn't mind Mr. Scene to share a piece of the pie. Therefore, he also briefly revealed his stock trading situation to the other party. Hearing that Mike invested more than 2 million yuan in the stock market and really made money, this kind of decision-making ability and courage really surprised Mr. Scene. You know, Mike is still a high school student. Interesting. I kind of admire you. Mr. Scene poured 2 glasses of iced brandy and pushed one of them to Mike across from him. This move indicated that he had initially recognized the other party and was willing to put the other party on an equal footing with himself. Let's eat. After taking a sip of brandy, Mr. Scene invited everyone to enjoy the food. As the main meal began, the atmosphere of interrogating prisoners in the restaurant disappeared. Next, Mr. Scene took the time to share some of his business experience with Mike. Business experience plus 88. Business experience plus 66. Surprisingly, Mr. Scene did not show any emotion on his face, but he actually revealed some real things during the chat. It seems that he unilaterally accepted Mike's identity as a son-in-law. Chapter 281, the beginning of the school year. The lunch lasted about an hour, and the second half was almost a discussion between Mr. Scene and Mike. Mike also gained a lot during this meal. Due to his strong learning ability, his business skill level was close to the 4th professional level at the end of the meal. With this skill, Mike can make money in the real economy, even if he does not rely on the foresight of the stock market. Okay, Mike. You just drank. Go and rest for a while. Mrs. Towsey interrupted her husband's endless teaching and asked her daughter to help Mike go upstairs to rest. Don't drink and drive. Don't drive after drinking. According to convention, Mike must stay at Towsey's house for at least 2 hours before he is allowed to drive home. Looking at the backs of his eldest daughter and Mike leaving, Scene, the old father, had a very complicated expression. Through the previous communication, he had determined that Mike was a very promising teenager, but no father would be happy to watch his little cotton jacket being worn away. How about it, Scene? Are you satisfied with this, Mr. Mike? Mrs. Towsey asked teasingly after only Scene and his wife were left in the restaurant. Very smart and thoughtful. If the full score is 100, I'll give him 85 points. Mr. Scene gave an objective evaluation. In the second half of lunch, when Mike's business skills level improved, he was able to chat with Mr. Scene. Even Mr. Scene had never seen such learning ability and business talent. With such excellence, Mr. Scene had nothing to complain about this son-in-law. As for the 15 points deducted, it was just the last stubbornness of an old father. I think you are jealous of Mike's handsomeness. Mrs. Towsey walked behind her husband with a smile, holding his shoulders, and said affectionately, "But my old baby is not bad either." As she said that, Mrs. Towsey became unserious. To be honest, Mr. Scene was definitely a handsome guy when he was young, as he was favored by a face control. Even in middle age, Mr. Scene, who has no beer belly and has thick hair, can be called a friend of women. At the same time, in Colin's room on the second floor, a fierce double asterisk action was also going on. Holy Spear experience plus 69. Dance experience plus 66. Flexibility plus 3. 2 hours later, Mike, who had said his final goodbye to Collins, drove away from the Teoxy family. 2 more days passed, and the students welcomed the start of the new school year. With the start of the school year, George also prepared for his self-driving trip. At this time, his white RV was filled with daily necessities, clothes and other sundries. These things were all personal items that George had sorted out in his room while his mother was out these 2 days. "George, are you sure you want to do this? It's not too late to regret it now." In front of the RV, George tried to persuade his eldest son again. "I've decided," thinking of the upcoming separation from his family. George's expression was a little heavy at the moment. However, the yearning for the outside world still made the young man firm in his thoughts. "Well, you've grown up. You have the ability to take responsibility for your own actions." George's father shook his head helplessly and handed over a package. "This is what your mother prepared for you. I hope everything goes well for you. Also, remember that this will always be your home." Little George was a little surprised to receive the gift from his mother, but the rest was moved. "Okay, take care of yourself when you get out." George was not used to this kind of farewell scene. After instructing his eldest son again, he turned to his little daughter and said, "Let's go. I have to take you to elementary school." Missy waved goodbye to little George. "Goodbye, little George. I will miss you." Although Missy and little Sheldon are twins, in fact, her relationship with little George is even closer. Here, not long after George and Missy left, Grandma Connie and Mike also came out to the RV. "Little George, these are the dry food that Grandma prepared for you. Take them with you on the road. And take this money too, for emergencies. It's not like home." Grandma Connie chattered as she handed out a large bag of food and a handful of rice. The amount of emergency food is enough for one person to consume for half a month. As for the handful of rice, it should be about 1,000 yuan. According to Grandma Connie's monthly living expenses, it is not easy to come up with this money. Little George, who received the gift again, was also very moved and wanted to say some words of thanks. "Stop, we are a family." Grandma Connie predicted the other party's reaction, smiled and waved her hand, saying, "This is all I can help you with. Now Grandma should go to the spa for maintenance." After that, Grandma Connie turned around and left. Next, little George, who had calmed down beside the RV, turned his eyes to Mike, as if he was looking forward to the gift prepared by the other party. "Take these 2,000 yuan. If you encounter difficulties that cannot be solved on the road, remember to call me." Mike was not hypocritical and threw out 2,000 yuan in a generous and inhumane way. A hateful face that has nothing but money. "I'll borrow this money. I'll pay you back when I'm rich." After receiving the money, George made a promise. Unlike George's father and Connie's grandmother, Mike is an outsider after all. Check out the correct version at 1619 book bar. Whatever you want, Mike's current net worth, $2,000, is nothing to him. Therefore, he doesn't care much whether George can pay back the money. Then, see you in half a year. After saying goodbye, Mike drove the Ferrari sports car and took Peggy to school. It's early June now, and it's exactly half a year until Christmas at the end of the year. If nothing goes wrong, George's money is enough for him to be free until Christmas, and then come back to reunite with his family. Melford Middle School is holding a welcome event. The new school year in the new atmosphere. The school gate and the playground are hung with banners and ribbons to welcome the new school year. At the same time, many old students are watching the new students enroll at the school gate. Those freshmen who just came from the elementary school, with their immature faces and silly looks, are a rare pleasure. As for Mike, after parking his sports car outside the school gate and entering the campus, students took the initiative to greet him along the way. A sports star, a top student, a campus celebrity, a god-level school hunk. A series of labels have made Mike, who was officially promoted to the 12th grade senior this school year, the undisputed brightest star on the Melford campus. With so many halos on him, even the school teachers have to give him some face. It can be imagined that Mike's high school life will be very enjoyable in the next year. Similarly, as Mike's fame grows, more and more girls will want to join his fan club. For example, now, Lina, who is sitting in the 12th grade classroom, has a pile of application forms in front of her, all of which are masterpieces of students who want to join the fan club. "Mike, you're finally here." Seeing Mike enter the classroom, Lina asked as if she saw a savior, "Do you mind if there are boys joining your fan club?" "What?" Mike was a little surprised. You know, although there is no clear rule for his fan club, the members who joined before were all girls. This is a convention. There is a boy named Dan here who wants to join the fan club. He specifically marked it as your friend. Lina explained. As time goes by, Mike's fan club has almost become the most influential group in the school. It can be imagined that with a group of this size, the status of the members inside will naturally not be low. At least there will be no situation of being bullied for no reason. Considering this aspect, it seems understandable that Dan, as a marginalized person who is most likely to be bullied, wants to join the fan club. Chapter 282, Ugly Duckling, White Swan. Are there many boys like Dan? Mike asked as he led Peggy to sit in the middle of the first row. Let me see. Lina, who was sitting in the second row, looked through the documents on the table. After a while, she sorted out several applications, came to Mike, and said, "There are quite a few boys trying to seek asylum. Of course, there are also a few of your real followers." Mike's performance last year was obvious to all. For high school boys who are in hero worship, it is not too strange to have a few enthusiastic fans. Looking at the several documents in front of him, Mike did not read them. He pondered for a while and said, "How about this? You list the names of boys who want to join the fan club and let them form a separate group." When he is able, Mike does not mind helping out, such as Dan, a marginalized group in school. You have to know that energetic high school boys are also at the age of not being careful. Therefore, never underestimate the evil in human nature, especially when facing the simple-minded and impulsive Migo high school students. "Okay, I understand." Lina smiled brightly, as if she got Mike's intention. Just at this moment, there was a commotion in the back row of the classroom. There were two tall boys who didn't look like good students, and they seemed to be bullying a female student. The commotion was made by the students watching the excitement. This situation is very common in school. Seeing Mike frowning slightly, Lina explained, "The two boys are Arthur and Avis. They seem to have a good relationship with George before. As for the girl, it seems to be called Maya. If I remember correctly, she seems to be a member of your fan club." The girl named Maya used to wear a pair of big black framed glasses, and her fluffy and messy curly hair made it impossible to see her face. Her usual dressing style also revealed a shabby atmosphere, and she loved to carry a strange big school bag all day. She looked like a marginal person. At this time, the new semester arrived, and the girl had a wide fisherman's hat on her head, which made her look easier to bully. After introducing the basic situation of the three people at the center of the conflict, Lina didn't say much, as if she wanted to see how Mike would deal with this matter. "Look at our ugly duckling. He actually bought a new hat," Arthur said in the back row with a pretentious expression, as if he was playing a villain in a stage play. Looking at his smug smile, he seemed to enjoy the feeling of being noticed. Maya, who was targeted, huddled up and hid behind her hat, trembling, looking weak and vulnerable. The girl's reaction further encouraged Arthur's arrogance. "What? Is our ugly duckling afraid of seeing people?" As he said that, Arthur was about to take off the girl's hat. At this critical moment, a strong and slender hand grabbed Arthur's wrist, making him unable to move. Phew. The good show was interrupted, and Arthur was so angry that he wanted to curse. But when he turned around and saw who was coming, he held back his words. The arrogant look on his face turned into a flattering smile. At this time, Arthur realized that the classroom was terribly quiet. As for his accomplice Davis beside him, he had already lowered his head and pretended to be a quail. Is it fun? Mike asked unhappily. No, it's not fun. Arthur, whose wrist was pinched so hard that it hurt, realized that he had done something wrong and grinned to make amends. I just wanted to joke with Maya. I didn't think of bullying her. Joking? It was a trick. Mike stared at Arthur with a bad expression for 2 seconds until the other party was speechless. Then he said, then how about I joke with you too? I bet that you and Davis will become bald before school tomorrow. What do you think? Repay kindness with kindness and repay evil with evil. Mike punished Arthur in the same way. Of course, he did not forget Davis, who was pretending to be a quail on the side. I think baldness suits me very well. Arthur quickly backed off and at the same time silently mourned for his hair in his heart. Davis on the side also nodded desperately, indicating that he should have a bald-headed summer. Can you let me go? Although he has become a clown in the eyes of others, Arthur still dared not offend Mike. It can be imagined that, if you offend Mike, who has a very high popularity, you will probably be isolated by other students and become a marginal person in the next semester, and even lose your right to socialize with girls. Did you forget something? Mike did not let go of Arthur's wrist immediately, but reminded him, if you do something wrong, you should learn to apologize. Sorry. Arthur and Davis, who got the hint, looked as if they had suddenly realized something and bowed their heads to apologize to Mike at the same time. What's the use of telling me? Mike looked speechless, indicating that the two had found the wrong target. At this time, the girl in the seat had stopped trembling, and her delicate white chin was revealed under the slightly raised brim of her hat. Sorry, Ma. Please forgive us. Arthur and Davis apologized again. After seeing the girl nod slightly, Mike let go of Arthur and let him leave with Davis. Thank you. The girl whispered a thank you, and if Mike hadn't had excellent hearing, he would hardly hear it. This character is too soft. Mike shook his head and turned to the first row. As the hero saves the beauty ended, there was a sparse applause in the classroom. It turns out that high school students are not completely indifferent to good and evil. Lena also smiled and watched Mike leave, then went to Maya and pulled the girl up and then invited her to sit in the second row. A storm subsided. Then, as time passed, Ms. Victoria walked into the classroom with the ringing of the bell. In the 16 to 9 book, The Bar, a correct version. On the first day of the new school year, Ms. Victoria, as the head teacher, needs to get familiar with her students again. This is also an important moment for the head teacher to establish authority in the new school year. After the class rules and school rules were announced by Longsang, Ms. Victoria glanced at the students below and said sharply, students wearing hats in the second row, do you know that this behavior is disrespectful to the teacher? There is no rule in the school rules that students cannot wear hats. Obviously, Maya was caught as a model. It can only be said that the girl's current seat is too conspicuous. I'm sorry, Teacher Maya, who was specifically called out, immediately stood up, looking like she had done something wrong. Take off that ridiculous hat for me. Ms. Victoria looked unhappy. This is obviously picking on the weak and making an example of others. The feminist head teacher had a bad attitude towards boys, but who knew that her attitude towards female students would become so bad now? Teacher, as far as I know, there is no school rule or class rule that says students can't wear hats in class. Mike leaned back and looked at Ms. Victoria. Their eyes met in the air, making the atmosphere in the classroom solemn. After a while, Ms. Victoria, who was in a higher geographical position, looked away first after a few flickers. Although it is not written in the school rules, wearing a hat in class without special circumstances is disrespectful to the teacher. Ms. Victoria argued unconvincedly. Whether the circumstances are special or not is a very subjective question. Maybe some students wear hats because they can feel safe. Mike put forward his own understanding. It is not necessarily because of physical defects that people hide. One possibility is the situation in The Man in the Box. Because of their personality and spirit, some people need a hat as a spiritual sustenance. Let's ask the person concerned what he thinks. Ms. Victoria knew that Mike was difficult to deal with, so she turned her attention to Maya again. I'm sorry, I've caused trouble to everyone. Maya seemed to be afraid that Mike would continue to quarrel with the teacher. After apologizing, the girl took off her hat. Unlike what I imagined, the girl had an angelic face, with fair skin that was tight and delicate, as if it could be blown away. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised when she was not smiling, exuding sweetness invisibly. A pair of big eyes like autumn water, with a bit of gentleness in her agility. Like a deer in the forest, people can't help but want to protect her. Oh, is this the Maya we know? So beautiful. Goddess muse. As the girl revealed her true face, there were bursts of exclamations in the classroom, some of which were envious and some were shocked. Maya seemed to be unaccustomed to the gaze of the crowd, and a faint pink rose on her fair face. Just when she habitually lowered her head, she happened to meet a pair of bright eyes. To be honest, Mike, who turned around to watch, was also a little surprised by the girl's appearance. When Mike stared at her, the girl put away her timidity. She raised her head again and stood straight. Temperament attribute +5. Gentlemanly experience +20. The calmed girl had a more elegant temperament. Chapter 283. It turns out to be a princess. Ms. Victoria was also surprised by Maya's new look, but when she heard the chaotic discussion in the classroom, she frowned and scolded, "Be quiet. Also, that girl, you can sit down." The girl's previous unconfident image, among a group of flamboyant and energetic classmates, was so ordinary that the teacher would even forget a name. Obviously, Ms. Victoria just didn't remember what Maya's name was. However, the transformation from an ugly duckling to a white swan, this magical thing did not subside so quickly. As the teacher scolded, there were still many students in the classroom discussing Maya. This made Ms. Victoria on the podium look more and more ugly, and she was about to explode again. Just at this time, the classroom door was knocked, and then a short figure poked his head to look around, and then sneaked into the classroom. At the same time, violent laughter rang out again in the classroom. The person who came was little Sheldon, and his image at this time could be described as terrible. His shoelaces were not tied, his belt was exposed, the hem of his shirt was loose and hanging outside, and even his usually exquisite hairstyle was now a mess. What's worse is that there is a lot of red sticky liquid on his clothes and face. Compared with the meticulous and well-dressed little Sheldon in the past, he can now be described as sloppy. This limited edition little Sheldon is not common, so the students' attention quickly shifted from Maya to little Sheldon. "Mr. Sheldon, can you tell me why you are late?" Ms. Victoria didn't have a good face for the culprit who caused the classroom riot again. In addition, Ms. Victoria just mentioned the problem of Maya's hat, and now little Sheldon has a problem with his clothes. This coincidence seems to be specifically against the teacher. "Sorry, Ms. Victoria. I can explain that I was late because of an unexpected situation at home." Little Sheldon, who wanted to pretend to be a transparent man and sneak back to his seat but failed, could only stand by the podium to answer questions. "What's the matter with your clothes? If I remember correctly, the school has regulations on students' clothing, and they must first be kept clean." Ms. Victoria looked serious and didn't intend to let little Sheldon go so easily. Maybe it was because Sheldon's personality was not pleasant, so Ms. Victoria seemed to be taking advantage of the situation. "It's a hot dog," Sheldon explained. "My mom forgot to add tomato juice to my hot dog this morning, so I did it myself." Because of the departure of her eldest son, Mary was a little absent-minded when preparing breakfast today, and forgot to squeeze tomato juice into her youngest son's hot dog. This was naturally unbearable for Sheldon, who pursued perfection, so he chose to make the hot dog himself. The rest of the things are easy to explain. Sheldon, who had almost zero hands-on ability, messed up his breakfast. At the same time, due to the chain reaction, he missed the school time. Next, Sheldon, who had never been late for school, didn't even have time to tidy up his image in order to catch up with the school bell. It's just that the more anxious a person is, the easier it is to make mistakes. Obviously, Sheldon not only messed up his breakfast, but he also missed the school bell. Such a miserable experience should be sympathetic. However, when the person telling this joke was Sheldon, the students couldn't help laughing. It can be said that the comedy effect is full. Facing the laughing of the crowd, little Sheldon was about to have a panic attack, but he still stubbornly explained, "These are tomato juices, I can get them soon." But in the face of his serious explanation, the classroom rang with more intense laughter. This time, little Sheldon's panic attack broke out. He turned around and fled out of the classroom in embarrassment, like a child who was wronged and wanted to go home to find his mother. What a bad day. Okay, stop laughing. Ms. Victoria patted the podium and maintained the order of the classroom. Today is the first day of a new semester, and there is no special arrangement, so Ms. Victoria didn't care much about little Sheldon's departure. Then the teacher emphasized the classroom discipline again, and then let the students distribute freely and do a general cleaning of the classroom. Yes, today's task is general cleaning. Time came to the afternoon after school, and the students who had spent a relaxing day walked out of the school one after another. Mike's super high value combination of 4 people once again attracted the most attention from students on the playground. After a day of contact, Lina has become a close friend with the simple Maya. At this time, 2 girls were whispering behind Mike and Peggy. At the same time, a long luxury Lincoln stopped at the school gate. The door opened, and a bald middle-aged man who looked like a butler came to the front of the car and stood straight. He was well trained. Lina, someone is here to pick me up. See you tomorrow. After seeing the Lincoln and the middle-aged man parked at the door, Maya said goodbye to Lina. Then, the girl secretly glanced at Mike in front of her, and then walked towards the Lincoln. Mr. Butler, did Grandma ask you to pick me up? Maya greeted the middle-aged man. Yes, Queen Regina asked me to pick you up. You still have etiquette lessons to complete today. The middle-aged man looked old-fashioned, but his eyes were full of pampering. Also, my name is Joseph Joe. You can call me Joe, or you can call me Joseph. Okay, Joseph. Let's go. Maya smiled and got into the Lincoln. As the luxurious Lincoln car drove away, many students at the school gate speculated about Maya's identity. As mentioned earlier, it is rare to see luxury cars worth millions in the small town of Telford, let alone the extended Lincoln with the top configuration. Check out the correct version in the 16 to 9 book forum. People who can ride in this kind of car are definitely not just rich. Mike, do you need me to help you find out about Maya? You seem very interested in her. After watching the luxury car leave, Lina caught up with Mike in front of her and joked with a smile. No need, Maya should be a royal princess. Mike has realized that Maya is the heroine in the Princess Diaries. It is not a good idea to find out about the royal family. Also, how do you know that I'm interested in her? Mike turned his head and looked at the girl speechlessly. Don't pretend. Don't I know what you are thinking? Lina ignored the eyes of the people around her and stepped forward to hug Mike's arm. Double teaming. Good flexibility. You are so good. It seems I need to teach you a lesson. Mike skipped the topic of the princess and walked towards his red Ferrari with Lina and Peggy. Today, Lina can't avoid this family punishment. Is it wrong for a man to be lustful? In the case of capable people, the answer is obvious. For Mike, Princess Maya's current appearance is obviously in line with his aesthetic taste. But she is a princess after all, so everything needs to be done slowly. At the same time, Maya, who took a car to a super luxurious villa, met her grandmother here, Queen Genovia, Regina. The queen, who is over 50 years old, has an elegant aristocratic temperament. Maya, you look very happy today. Did anything good happen? Queen Regina asked with a smile. After hugging her granddaughter, Maya grew up in a single-parent family. Her mother is an artist who loves art. Because she couldn't stand the rules and regulations in the kingdom of Genovia, she divorced her husband, the royal heir, and came to Migo countryside town with her daughter. The tight living conditions have made Maya timid and cautious. As she is not suitable to be the princess of Genovia, or even the queen of the kingdom. It is just because Genovia's father died suddenly, and Queen Regina is getting older and older. If the kingdom wants to be stable, it must choose another heir. Therefore, Queen Regina will find her granddaughter who is living outside. Maya, who grew up wildly since childhood, has a lot to learn to become a qualified royal princess. The most obvious one is royal etiquette. The complicated and cumbersome etiquette matters made Maya, a wild girl in the countryside, suffer a lot. In this case, the girl must not be happy. Therefore, seeing Maya's cheerful appearance now, Queen Regina was surprised. Something good has happened. Maya unconsciously showed a happy smile on her face. Maybe it's not bad to be a princess. The girl thought of Mike. If it develops normally, she would never have any intersection with him. But if it is a noble princess, the situation is different. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284, Dining Etiquette. Okay, let's start today's class, Dining Etiquette. Queen Regina waited for her granddaughter to be stunned for a while before interrupting her and arranging today's class. The queen was young once, and knowing her granddaughter's appearance, she was obviously in a sweet fantasy love. Joe, go and prepare dinner for our lovely princess. Then, Queen Regina ordered the butler. As you wish. Joe nodded and hurried to the restaurant. Joe Joseph is the queen's personal butler, part-time bodyguard and think tank. Therefore, this middle-aged man with a beautiful mustache is actually a versatile person. Later, when Maya followed the queen grandmother to the restaurant, a large table of sumptuous food had been set up according to the specifications of the royal dinner. Oh my god, are these all prepared for me? Maya looked at the exquisite food and exquisite tableau on the table, and couldn't help but exclaimed. At this moment, this country girl had some concrete understanding of the luxury of the Genovese royal family. This is a dinner for 2 people prepared according to the specifications of the royal family banquet. Of course you can enjoy it. Queen Regina smiled and led her granddaughter to her seat and then sat down opposite her and continued, let's eat and learn dining etiquette at the same time. I will remind you at any time. Oh, okay. Maya sat in her seat, looking left and right. Everything seemed so new. First of all, you must remain dignified after sitting down, and you can't leave your seat unless it is necessary. Twisting around is even more unacceptable, which is very impolite. Queen Regina looked at her granddaughter's irritable appearance and patiently explained the dining etiquette. Okay. Maya's eyes turned, and she sat up straight. But not long after, she became interested in the bottle of strange-looking drink in the middle of the table. Is this brandy or wine? I haven't tasted it. The girl stood up carelessly and took the exquisite bottle of wine in her hand. First of all, brandy is not wine. It is a distilled liquor obtained through burning and distillation. Secondly, I need to apologize because time is tight. Today we can only use slow standard alcoholic beverages to replace the royal wine. Queen Regina said calmly and patiently. Finally, you seem to have forgotten the dining etiquette I taught you before. I know, you can't leave your chair. Maya stuck out her tongue, trying to get away with it. When she found that her grandmother was not paying attention to her, the girl curiously opened the brandy in her hand. The slightly fruity liquor was poured into the crystal glass, exuding an attractive aroma. Maya couldn't wait to pick up the goblet and took a big sip. Then she put the goblet back on the table with a red face. The huge movement made the tableau on the table move. Queen Regina on the opposite side looked at her granddaughter's rude behavior. Her eyebrows jumped several times and finally resisted the desire to continue preaching. This is the heir I chose. Everything will be fine. She needs more time to adapt. If anyone could hear the queen's mumbling, it would be something like this. Ha, it's so spicy. At this time, Maya, who finally swallowed the wine in her mouth, opened her mouth and exhaled while fanning her face with her hands. Unlike ordinary wines with an alcohol content of more than 10 degrees, the alcohol content of distilled brandy exceeds 40 degrees, which is definitely a spicy wine. People who drink it for the first time will definitely not be used to it, let alone drink such a big mouthful at a time like Maya. Hey, is that beef? Maya, who urgently needed a hard dish to suppress the smell of alcohol, saw a plate of beef in sauce in front of her grandmother, and then stood up and forked 2 slices with a fork. Then she sat down with satisfaction and chewed with big mouthfuls. Queen Regina, who has maintained elegance all her life, really couldn't stand her granddaughter's rudeness this time. Joe, go find a lace and tie Maya to the chair, the queen instructed the butler. After a while, Joe went outside to find a scarf-like ribbon. Excuse me, Princess Maya. After apologizing, the butler put a ribbon around Maya's shoulders and fixed her to the back of the chair. Why? Maya stretched her arms and found it very inconvenient. The first rule of royal dining etiquette, Queen Regina explained patiently again. You can't leave your seat. I know it by heart. Maya has learned to answer quickly, and then she wondered, but what if there are dishes on the table that I can't reach? You can summon the waiter next to you to help. For example, Joe next to you can help you. Queen Regina answered. Now I understand. Maya smiled and turned to the butler beside her and said, Joseph, can you help me pick up 2 more pieces of beef? Hearing this, the butler stepped forward and picked up 2 pieces of beef and then neatly placed them on the plate in front of Maya. Amazing. Looking at the beef neatly placed on the plate at once, Maya exclaimed. Then, the girl turned her attention to the other delicacies on the table. Is that shrimp chips? I haven't eaten them either. And that foie gras over there. Maya, who had never eaten anything good since she was a child with her artist mother, was obviously fascinated by the exquisite and high-end food on the table. Following the girl's instructions, the butler on the side came forward again. However, the butler's speed could not keep up with the girl's greed. So the girl, who couldn't wait, patted the chair and picked up the delicacies she wanted to eat. Across the table, Queen Regina was stunned by this funny scene. A perfect version of the book on 1619. There is no hope. Let's destroy it. The queen covered her face and stood up. Joe, wait until Maya finishes eating before calling me. After that, Queen Regina left the restaurant quickly. Long-term royal etiquette education made her unable to see the scenes happening in the restaurant. Half an hour later, Maya, who had eaten and drunk enough, slumped on the chair with her hands on her stomach. As for the ribbon on her shoulder, it had disappeared long ago. Then, when Queen Regina was called back by Joe, the girl stood up quickly with an embarrassed look on her face. In fact, the girl also wanted to be elegant, but the food was too tempting. Are you full? Queen Regina asked with a straight face, as if she was still angry. I'm full, Maya answered carefully, as if she was waiting to be criticized. Go back if you're full. Today's etiquette class ends here. We'll continue tomorrow. Queen Regina still maintained her elegance. Oh, okay. Without waiting for the expected sermon, Maya raised her head and showed a bright smile. Goodbye, Grandma. And Joseph, see you tomorrow. Seeing the girl running out of the villa happily with a big school bag on her back, Queen Regina unconsciously showed a warm smile on her face. What do you think of her? Queen Regina turned to look at the butler. Are you talking about Princess Maya? There is no doubt that she is very cute. Joe gave a fair evaluation. Yes, just like when I was young. Queen Regina sat on the sofa and fell into memories. After a while, she came back to her senses. Joe, remember to remind me tomorrow to get some money for Maya's family. The easiest way to make a girl a princess is to let her live a princess-like life, whether it is materially or psychologically. Also, I want to know what happened to Maya in school today. Maybe it will help her become a princess. Queen Regina spoke again. 3 months later, the Genovese royal family had a grand royal family gathering. Queen Regina wanted to take that opportunity to introduce Maya to other royal family members. So, it's not surprising that Queen Regina was strict with her granddaughter. Maya really didn't have much time left. If everything goes well, Maya will get the title of Princess of the Kingdom that day and become the future heir to the kingdom. In order to help Maya complete this task, Queen Regina actually turned down several meeting invitations from the heads of small countries in the past few days. Genovia is a small country not far from Migo, with a land area less than a state of Migo. Even such a small country is rich in liquid gold and various minerals. To keep these wealth and make the people live happily, Queen Regina needs to consider more than she imagined. Chapter 285 Competition for Student Union President. At Connor's grandmother's house, after about an hour of work, Mike sent Lena away and then took Peggy to Cooper's house. At this time, it was just dinner time at Cooper's house. Because of the absence of little George, the atmosphere in the restaurant seemed a little heavy. After the prayer before the meal, seeing that no one was talking, Coach George took the lead in breaking the silence. Mike, the summer league is about to start. When do you plan to return to the team? I will keep the captain's armband for you. When Captain Aaron stepped down last year, George has been keeping the position of captain of the football team for Mike. Whether from the perspective of contribution, influence or strength, Mike is the most suitable person for the position of team captain. If I remember correctly, there is more than a month before the official game. If the team still needs me by then, you can notify me. Mike thought for a while and replied, With his level, he can become a main player at any time if he joins the team. Mike doesn't mind getting involved in this kind of effortless thing. Maybe he can make a fortune by selling posters at that time. And as far as he knows, after the football team was reorganized, the players' strength is not bad, at least the top 10 level. It will be much easier to lead a team like this. Okay, I'll notify you a week before the game. By the way, you and your new teammates will have some time to get used to each other. Coach George, who got the promise of returning to the team, finally felt relieved. It can be said that Mike was the one who made the Melford football team have its current status. To be honest, without Mike in the team, Coach George was really a little worried. Just after the two finished chatting, Sheldon suddenly asked, "Mike, are you going to run for the position of student union president this year?" The bad experience in the morning made Sheldon's face still very ugly until now. No student union president, dog. It's not a good job, and it's not in my consideration. Mike shook his head in disdain. Why do you ask that? The president of the student union of Melford High School is just a person who runs errands for the teacher. He has a lot of things to do, and is easy to offend people on both sides. Give it to a dog, and he won't even be a dog. I'll just ask. Little Sheldon was obviously relieved, and then continued, "In fact, I'm planning to compete for the president of this student union. Because of today's embarrassing experience, little Sheldon wants to find a stage to prove that he can do it, and at the same time, try to overcome his weakness, panic disorder. It just so happens that in his opinion, the student union president is very powerful. In fact, students hate the annoying person like the student union president, so they will subconsciously avoid him." Little Sheldon, who has a preliminary idea, does not take other competitors seriously. The only ones who really make him recognize in the school are Mike and Peggy, who have super high IQs. And because Peggy is a girl and the same age as herself, she is also subconsciously ignored by little Sheldon. Therefore, the opponent who prevented him from becoming the president of the student union was actually only Mike from beginning to end. Now knowing that Mike has no intention of becoming the president of the student union, little Sheldon feels lonely, that no hero in the world can match him. It's just like this, when you are on the top of the mountain, and look down on all the mountains. Oh, Shelly, Grandma's little cookie, you are going to be the student union president. Grandma Connie was surprised, with a look on her face, that her good grandson had made great achievements. Mary also spoke up at this time, to encourage her youngest son. It seemed that in their eyes, the student union president was a very sacred position. This also made Mike's words of persuasion remain in his mouth. "Shelly, have you thought about your campaign manifesto?" George's father was calm, but he also agreed that his youngest son should make more attempts. "Manifesto? What is that? Is it like a presidential campaign speech?" Little Sheldon was a little confused. "No, it's not that exaggerated." George waved his hand with a smile and continued, "If you want to run for student union president, you just need to follow the students' wishes and bring them help. Naturally, someone will support you. High school student elections are actually not that complicated. Someone once promised to give everyone a lollipop and became the student union president. Therefore, according to the simple minds of high school students, bribing them is the fastest way to become their own people. If you give students what they want, you can become the student union president. This doesn't seem difficult." Little Sheldon seemed to understand what his father meant. "I don't think this is right." Missy, who had been listening for a long time, suddenly said, "If you want to succeed, you just need to defeat all your opponents. I was able to become the class monitor by doing this." Mrs. Defeat was literal. She successfully defeated all the children in the class and became the king of the children in the class, which is commonly known as the class monitor. "What you said seems to make sense." Little Sheldon thought for a while and asked, "So, what should we do specifically?" "It's very simple. You have to find out who your real opponent is first, and then find a way to target him." Missy gave advice seriously. "The real opponent." Little Sheldon murmured, and with his super high palace memory, he recalled the characteristics of all the students in the 12th grade. After a while, his eyes lit up and said, "I thought of my real opponent, Neil Kavanaugh. Strictly speaking, Kavanaugh is a truly good student. She has excellent academic performance, is also very good at uniting classmates, and can please teachers. Read the correct version in the 16:9 book forum. Well, this is from the perspective of little Sheldon. The actual situation is that this girl named Kavanaugh is very keen on power, and she is willing to become a running dog under the teacher for this. As for uniting classmates, she wants to blend into the crowd and find out the students' little secrets, so that she can report to the teacher at any time. Before, the students didn't know, so they naturally became friends with this enthusiastic and proactive girl. But things will eventually be exposed. Therefore, Kavanaugh, who doesn't have the beauty of Regina and loves to gossip, is actually not popular among students. But then again, in some ways, Kavanaugh is indeed quite suitable for the position of student union president. Kavanaugh? Very good. Missy looked like a military advisor and made suggestions. You now know your opponent. Next, you just need to unplug the other party's microphone when he is giving a speech to canvass for votes. Poof, Grandma Connie almost spit out a mouthful of beer. Missy, is this your way? Grandma Connie had a hard time holding back her laughter. George and his wife also looked ridiculous. Yes, isn't this a good idea? Missy was not embarrassed at all. She continued with a flash of inspiration. By the way, Sheldon, on the day of the speech, you can also secretly hide Kavanaugh's outdoor shoes. It must be funny to canvass for votes barefoot. Fake competition. Both sides are scheming, strategizing, making far-reaching plans, and winning without fighting. Real competition. Pulling out the other party's socket, pulling the other party's hair, cream tomato sauce, and doing everything possible. Obviously, Missy has grasped the essence of competition. Enough. Missy Mary finally couldn't help it. She was afraid that, if she was a second late, her little son would learn bad things from her daughter. Shelly, I want you to promise me that you won't use Mrs. Method. Of course, Mom, I will defeat my opponent openly. Little Sheldon has his own pride. Using unpresentable methods to defeat ordinary people is a blasphemy to the reputation of genius. Well, it's up to you. Missy, who gave advice to others for the first time, wanted to show that she didn't care, but her slightly furrowed brows still betrayed her. Not long after, she tried to think of other new ways, and she spoke again in surprise. I remember that Kavanaugh's sister seems to be in our class. Maybe I can get some inside information from her to help Sheldon defeat his opponent. Be quiet, Missy. Shelly doesn't need your help. Mary spoke again to stop her daughter from speaking. After being scolded, the little girl lowered her head to eat, but from her twinkling eyes, she didn't seem to give up her plan. Chapter 286 Competition for Student Council President continued. Melford High School changes its student council president every year, and the new student council president will be selected from the 12th grade students of the current year. To ensure that this position does not remain vacant for too long, the new student council president is generally elected within a week of the start of the new school year. The election time is very tight. While other interested students are still signing up, Kavanaugh, who has been prepared, has already begun to build momentum for himself. This girl was very scheming and posted her campaign manifesto in advance at the school gate and in the teaching building. Kavanaugh, make Melford great again. Kavanaugh, long live Melford football team. And other brainwashing slogans. The time came to Friday. After layers of selection, Sheldon and Kavanaugh successfully defeated many opponents and became the final candidates for the student council president. Mike, do you think Sheldon can succeed? Lina, who was sitting in the first row of the school auditorium, turned her head and looked at Mike next to her. Yes. Today is the last moment to elect the current student council president. The only two remaining candidates have gone to the side of the stage to prepare. A temporary podium has been built in the middle of the stage. The seats below the auditorium are crowded with students of all grades. Who knows? Mike didn't seem very interested in the girl's question. Smart people all know that the student union president is an unpleasant position, so the real opponent of Sheldon Jr. is only Kavanaugh, who is keen on power. If Sheldon Jr. really wants to be the president, Missy has already given him the answer. It depends on whether he uses it. Mike, who doesn't care about this, turned to the girl on the other side and asked, Maya, are you sure your grandmother asked to see me? Although the girl hasn't confessed yet, Mike knows that Maya's grandmother is a queen of Genovia, Renati. Meeting a queen is a little exciting. Yes, maybe this weekend, Joseph will pick you up. Maya had a faint smile on her face, but she was thinking that when Mike knew her identity as a princess, his expression would be very interesting. Through the persistent etiquette learning during this period, the girl's temperament has become more and more dignified. But her carefree personality, which is ingrained in her bones, will still be inadvertently revealed. On the first day of school, Maya showed her true beauty and shocked a large number of people. However, as the girl approached Mike intentionally in the following week, her halo seemed to disappear again. People paid more attention to Mike. As for Mike, the students were used to having beautiful women around him. In the auditorium, as Mike and Maya chatted, time soon came to the time of electing the student union president. Principal Tom, with a head full of white hair, slowly walked to the center of the stage and said to the microphone, "I'm very happy to meet all the young people again. You make me feel that my old bones are much younger." The old principal, who is nearly 70 years old, was joking. In fact, he looked much older than in the first half of the year. If nothing unexpected happens, he should resign as principal by the end of this year. This student union president election will be a new experience for you. After a few words of family talk, the old principal was obviously a little exhausted. So, he looked sideways to the side of the stage and said, "The election process will be handed over to Mr. Tim. Tim Meadows, the dean of Melford High School, is a young man with a gentle heart and ability. It's just because of his position that he is not very popular among students." "Everyone be quiet." Tim took over the position of the old principal, stood in front of the microphone, and talked about discipline, and continued, "The election for the student union president has reached the final moment. Now there are only two heavyweights left for the ultimate showdown." The dean of students was full of energy and used a unique broadcasting tone to create a tense atmosphere. Those who didn't know would think it was a boxing match. "They are Neil Kavanagh and Sheldon Cooper. One of them will become your student union president this semester." As he said, Tim led the students to point their eyes to the two candidates who were preparing next to the stage. Facing the students' gaze, Kavanagh, who was wearing a beige dress, smiled and waved to everyone. Compared with her, little Sheldon, who was wearing a small dress and a formal bow tie, looked a little stupid at this time. Please listen to the speech carefully and make your choice seriously. Not long after, Tim drew everyone's attention back. "Ladies first, please invite Neil to give us her campaign speech first." After explaining the process, Tim, who was about to give up the stage, suddenly turned his head and said to the microphone, "I will say one more thing. Please be sure to maintain the venue discipline when listening to the speech. This is the responsibility of the Dean of Studies." However, Tim still underestimated the students' rebellious psychology. "Bite me," along with the warning, an arrogant voice suddenly sounded from the audience. "Brad Kent, 2 days of detention. A correct version in the 16-9 book and bar. Do you want to try detention for a week?" Tim's eyes were like torches, and he accurately picked out the students who were making trouble below, and educated them with a dark face. Be honest. After waiting for a while, seeing that there were no students making trouble, the Dean of Studies went to the side of the stage, smiled and said to Kavanagh, "Go, don't be nervous." Kavanagh was certainly not nervous. The girl had made all preparations in advance. She was wearing a white dress and had a sweet smile on her face. She looked like a girl next door. "First of all, I want to tell you that I love football." Kavanagh's tone was like chatting with a friend. Then she pointed at Mike in the first row and cheered restrainedly, as if suppressing her enthusiasm. "Long live the Melford football team. Long live Mike. There is no Texan who doesn't like football." Mike's performance in the school football team last year was also witnessed by the students. As everyone's emotions were mobilized, violent cheers suddenly rang out in the auditorium. This cheer was for the school football team and for Mike, the star player. The smart Kavanagh was equivalent to borrowing a wave of momentum, and it was obviously very successful. "Mike, did she say hello to you in advance?" Lina looked at the stage with dissatisfaction. This practice of taking advantage of momentum to promote oneself is neither polite nor respectful to people who are not familiar with each other. "No, but there is no need to care. Mike was not stingy enough to argue with a girl because of such a thing. It's a bargain for her. Lina shook her head. As the leader of Mike's support group, Lina is now a celebrity in the school. If she wants, it is not difficult to target a girl. But since Mike has already spoken, Lina will naturally not interfere. I have one more thing to tell you. On the stage, Kavanaugh continued his performance. In fact, I'm still a Christian. Long live God. As we all know, it is politically correct to believe in religion in Texas. You believe in religion, I believe in religion, so we are all family. In addition to the practice of posting slogans before the election, Kavanaugh's whole set of combined punches has won him a lot of goodwill from students. There is nothing much to say about my situation. Let me talk about my competitor today. After winning a certain degree of goodwill, Kavanaugh showed his fangs and pointed the spearhead at his opponent, Sheldon. As far as I know, my opponent Sheldon is an atheist. Listening to the girl talking leisurely, Sheldon on the side of the stage widened his eyes. It is obviously a bit unethical to launch a sneak attack strategy against a 10-year-old boy. Chapter 287. Please call me adult. The girl on the stage obviously understood the core of the competition, that is, to knock down the opponent. From this point of view, her idea coincided with Mrs. Next, I have to reveal something to everyone. Sheldon has always been dissatisfied with the school's strong support for sports. He thinks that the school's funds should be used more to replace the old experimental equipment in the school laboratory. As mentioned earlier, Kavanaugh has made full preparations for this campaign, which naturally includes understanding his opponent. Students in private high schools may be different from what little Sheldon imagined. Their love for school sports is obviously higher than the cold equipment in the laboratory. As the girl revealed, there was a burst of boos in the auditorium. Of course, these boos were for little Sheldon. So far, Kavanaugh's goal has been achieved. Long live the Melford football team. I love football, the girl finally shouted a loud slogan again, and ended her speech. Then she walked off the stage with a relaxed look. Sheldon, it's your turn to go on stage, Tim reminded little Sheldon in a low voice beside the stage. Seeing that Sheldon was still in a daze, the dean said sympathetically, if you are scared, you can leave now, and no one will blame you. Little Sheldon, who was unwilling to give in easily, happened to see Kavanaugh's smug expression at this time. This inspired the fighting spirit of the little genius. After cheering himself up, little Sheldon walked straight to the center of the stage. Tim smiled at this, and then picked up a small square stool, and went to the stage to cushion the microphone. Because of his height, little Sheldon now needs such a stool very much. He stepped on the stool and just reached the microphone. He took out his speech meticulously. At the same time, in the interlayer of the speech, a small note was lying quietly. That was the black material of Kavanaugh that Missy collected from Kavanaugh's sister. When Missy sent this small note before, little Sheldon had strongly expressed that he would rather lose openly than win with conspiracy and trickery. But after suffering a personal attack from his opponent, his thoughts seemed to be shaken. After looking back and forth between the speech and the small note for a long time, little Sheldon, who still couldn't make a decision, looked up at the dense crowd below. This glance immediately gave him a panic attack. Weak limbs, dizziness, sweating. This helpless feeling is not good. Thinking of his goal this time and Kavanaugh's previous pride, little Sheldon subconsciously chose the small note. The real fragrance warning is everywhere. The content on the note made little Sheldon's eyes light up. Kavanaugh may really love football and believe in God, but she supports the Yankees. As the students' emotions were mobilized, little Sheldon realized that the speech did not seem to be that difficult. So he followed up and said, according to the information I received, Kavanaugh was born in Apple City and settled in Texas at the age of 7. And the football team she loves has always been the Yankees football team in Apple City. There is even a banner of the Yankees winning the championship hanging in the room. The old bottom was exposed, and Kavanaugh on the side of the stage was already a pale face. The students below also booed and stared at the girl with hatred. If you ask what the bold Texans despise the most, it must be the upper class Big Apple. For example, it's like the asterisk people seeing the cherry blossom people. The two big states belong to natural hostile camps. Looking at the hateful expressions of the students below, Kavanaugh knew that his election was over. It's not that the opponent is so strong, but that she made a major mistake. On the other side of the stage, little Sheldon did not have a clear understanding of the lethality of his words. He only saw that the students below seemed to be not very interested after the booing. Everyone had a confused expression of doubting life, which made the auditorium quiet again. So, little Sheldon became unconfident again. He put away the small note and took out the speech again, trying to reawaken everyone's enthusiasm. I promise that, if I'm elected as the president of the student union, I will do my best to get the latest scientific equipment for our school. Sure enough, as little Sheldon gave a formal speech, the students below booed again. My goodness, what kind of filth are these two candidates for student union president? If possible, the students don't want to choose any of these two candidates. Oh, even if he was slow. After hearing the booing, little Sheldon realized that his formal speech seemed to be messed up. Not knowing how to deal with it next, he suddenly saw Mike sitting in the first row. With an idea, he imitated Kavanaugh, raised his fist and shouted, "Long live the Melford football team. Long live Mike." This trick really worked, and the students below cheered for their beloved football again. Compared to Kavanaugh, who was born in Apple City, at this moment, the students are more willing to choose little Sheldon, who shouted "Long live football." A correct version in 1619 book bar. This is a tall man among short people. HMM. What a surprise. Peggy, who was squeezed to sit next to Maya in the first row, looked at the funny performance of little Sheldon on the stage, and smiled for the first time. Mike in the middle also looked surprised at this time, and then regretted, "It's a pity that I didn't bring a camera to record this moment. This social death moment will definitely be very interesting to show to little Sheldon in the future." The mood on the scene has been set to this point, and little Sheldon on the stage has completely given it his all. Don't mess with Texans. In response to Kavanaugh's closing remarks, little Sheldon shouted out his final declaration. "Sheldon. Sheldon." The passionate slogan completely won the cheers for little Sheldon. Be quiet. After the two candidates finished their speeches, Tim came back to the microphone. Although the process was a bit tortuous, I think this election has already had a result. Let's congratulate Sheldon. So far, little Sheldon has exceeded his goal this time. The election activities on Friday afternoon have officially ended. The students will then welcome their first weekend of the new school year. As the students left one after another, little Sheldon came to Mike and others proudly like a victorious general. He almost wrote "Praise me" quickly on his face. Well done, Mike, who had watched a good show, gave encouragement as he wished. "It's nothing, just a student union president. It's not difficult for me." Although he was very happy, little Sheldon still tried his best to keep a straight face. As always, he maintained his arrogant personality. By the way, what should the student union president do? However, not long after, little Sheldon, who knew nothing about the duties of the student union president, finally couldn't hold it. "Maybe you should ask the dean of studies." Mike gestured to the dean of studies, who was waiting for little Sheldon in the back. The work of the student union president is very complicated. It not only helps teachers manage students, but also helps students convey their opinions to teachers. It is a bridge of communication between students and teachers. At the same time, the student union president also has the responsibility to take on the school's external publicity matters, as well as the direction of the school's academic affairs, funding and other issues. Anyway, it is to become a generalist. And Mr. Tim is still here, obviously to help little Sheldon and familiarize himself with his scope of responsibilities. When Mike walked out of the campus accompanied by a beautiful woman, little Sheldon also went to the dean of studies. "Let me introduce you to Neil Kavanaugh, your deputy for the next year, the vice president of the student union." Tim introduced the new identity of the girl next to him to little Sheldon. Although she failed in the election for the student union president due to her birth problem, Kavanaugh is indeed a capable girl. Therefore, being the vice president of the student union is not a big problem. At this time, the girl was staring at little Sheldon with a smile. Chapter 288, Meeting with the Queen. It was Saturday, and Mike deliberately chose a slightly formal outfit, a white hard shirt with a pair of black casual trousers. As the saying goes, when you don't know what to wear, choose black and white. This classic outfit will never go out of style. Near noon, Mike went to the mirror to fix his hair and said to the girl in front of the computer, "Peggy, you can take care of your lunch yourself. If you don't want to cook, you can go to Cooper's house across the street for dinner. Got it?" Peggy replied without raising her head. She was used to Mike going on dates with girls on weekends. When the clock struck 12 o'clock, the family Lincoln car arrived at Connor's grandmother's door on time. Queen Rianity had asked Joe to call Mike last night to formally inform Mike about the meeting. The time they agreed on was exactly 12 o'clock noon. "Mr. Mike, please get in the car. Queen Rianity is waiting for you." Joe opened the back door for the guest like a real butler. Because the formal meeting was going to be held today, this etiquette officer exclusively for the royal family did not deliberately conceal Queen Rianity's identity. "Thank you." Mike nodded and sat in the back seat of the Lincoln. This extended luxury Lincoln has a very large backseat space, and there are many secret compartments in the doors and seats. Over there, Joe, who picked up Mike, seemed to have turned into a robot, silently driving the car and rushing to the villa where the Queen stayed. Driving experience +5. Driving experience +5. It must be said that Mr. Joe's driving skills are very skilled. Even if he drives an extended vehicle, he can drive fast and steadily. Exactly 10 minutes later, the Lincoln car stopped steadily in front of a luxurious villa. "Please follow me." After getting off the car, Joe led Mike to the compartment at the door of the villa, took out a metal detector, and said, "Sorry, this is a necessary step before meeting the Queen. Detection experience +3. Detection experience +3. After a scan and inspection, Joe led Mike into the living room after confirming that there was no problem. "Your Majesty, I have brought the person you want to see to you." Joe stepped aside after reporting and played the role of butler again. Queen Rianity, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room, seemed to be chatting with her granddaughter. After hearing the report, she stood up and adjusted her long skirt and then welcomed with a smile. "Hello, Mike. I'm glad you can come. I'm Maya's grandmother Rianity. Temperament attribute +5. Etiquette experience +3. This old woman who has been queen for decades. Every move reveals an elegant temperament. Temperament is something mysterious, but it is easy to distinguish between having it and not having it. Just like the difference between an avaricious and aristocrats, a discerning person can see it at a glance." "Hello, Ms. Rianity," Mike responded politely. The other party was wearing a small crown on her head at this time, and her identity was self-evident. It was just that Queen Rianity was willing to get to know him as a friend and elder, so Mike was naturally happy to see it. Looking at Mike's clever appearance, Queen Rianity's expression became more kind. Mike, who has a very high appearance, is easy to give people a good impression at first sight. In addition, his special black and white clean match today makes him look sunny, cheerful, and full of youthfulness. This look can also gain more favor from the elders. "You haven't had lunch yet?" Queen Rianity asked. Seeing Mike shaking his head, she turned to the butler beside her and said, "Joe, go prepare lunch for our guests." When there were only 3 people left in the living room, Her Majesty the Queen formally introduced, "Mike, you should have known that my identity is Queen Rianity of Genovia, and Maya next to me is the future Princess of Genovia. Talking about the identity at this time will also help the subsequent communication." Maya was waiting for this moment. She had been hiding behind her grandmother before, blinking and making small movements with Mike. At this moment, she opened her eyes wide, wanting to see the surprised expression on Mike's face. This is also a little interest unique to girls. You know, that is a princess. But Maya was destined to be disappointed. Mike didn't react much and remained polite. "Yes, I already know. Queen Rianity and Princess Maya." "Alas, how did you guess the identities of Grandma and me?" Maya didn't see what she wanted to see, and her expression was a little regretful. "Mr. Joe told me at the door," Mike replied. Of course, this was a lie. He actually knew the identities of Maya and the others on Monday. "Really? That's really boring. How could Mr. Joseph tell you the answer in advance?" Maya, who didn't know there was a detection step at the door, had some resentment towards the butler. "Okay, let's go to lunch." Queen Rianity, who saw through everything, said, not giving her granddaughter time to continue to make mistakes. In the restaurant, the butler had prepared a sumptuous meal for the 3 of them. A perfect version at 16,191 book and bar. Judging from the scale, it was obviously prepared according to the specifications of the royal lunch. Please sit down. Queen Regina arranged Mike and the others to sit face to face on both sides of the long dining table. Mike, if you have food you can't reach, you can ask Mr. Joseph to do it for you. At the beginning of the meal, Maya secretly glanced at her grandmother who was sitting at the main seat and whispered to Mike opposite, remember, you can't leave the chair. This is the experience that the girl has gained after experiencing many painful memories. At the same time, the girl also has some selfishness. She really wants Mike to leave a good impression on her grandmother. Okay, I understand. Mike nodded, indicating that the girl knew it. In fact, even if the other party didn't remind him, Mike knew some royal dining etiquette. Half an hour later, Mike, who had eaten and drunk enough, was taken back to the living room by Queen Regina again. Mike, Maya is now preparing to learn the Genovese royal dance. Are you willing to learn with her? Queen Regina said the purpose of this time. To put it bluntly, Queen Regina just wants to find someone to urge Maya to learn the skills that a princess needs to use faster. After all, there is not much time left before the Genovese royal family gathering. If Maya hasn't learned how to be a real princess by that day, she may never have the chance to become a princess again. Maya is not the only one in the Genovese royal family who is capable of becoming the heir of the kingdom. Even some princes and ministers in the kingdom do not want to have another princess in the kingdom for personal gain. I'm happy to help in the living room. Mike looked at Maya and replied with a smile. Today, the girl has also been carefully dressed up. She looks like a blooming rose in a beautiful dress. Very good, Joe. You will be responsible for teaching them to learn the Genovese dance. After Queen Regina arranged everything, she went to sit aside. The Genovese royal dance is a variation of the double social dance. There will also be a special dance session at the Genovese royal party in 3 months. A qualified princess needs to show her charm in the dance session. Please put your hands on each other's waists and follow my instructions to dance. Joe turned into a dance teacher. Dance experience +5. Dance experience +3. With the rehearsal of the first and second masters, Mike quickly mastered the tricks of this dance. The country girl Maya showed her simple side. Even moving in sync with her partner was difficult for the girl. Chapter 289 Maya's family. Maya, don't think too much, just follow my rhythm. Mike reminded the girl after her instep was stepped on many times. Genovese dance is a dance used to make friends at dances. It has a high degree of freedom and can be danced as long as the basic steps are mastered. But the girl is a little too much now. She pays too much attention to the steps under her feet, so she loses the rhythm. This is the kind of thing that the more attention you pay, the easier it is to make mistakes, and the more mistakes you make, the less you know how to dance. Vicious cycle. Sorry, I'll try. Maya, who stepped on Mike's feet many times, had an embarrassed look on her face. It's okay, as a beginner, you have done very well. Mike encouraged the girl and continued, now, you need to learn to enjoy music and dance, and relax your body. With Mike's hand-in-hand teaching, the girl found the feeling soon. This novel experience filled the girl's heart with joy. It was at this time that the girl noticed that, because of the dance, her face was very close to Mike's. The warm afternoon sun shone on the boy through the glass window, making him look like he was covered with a layer of holy light. Handsome features, deep eyes, flawless skin. If there are angels in the world, this is probably what they look like. The girl was caught in a beauty attack, and a blush rose on her cheeks instantly. Sunlight, music, dance. Maya, whose mind was empty, seemed to understand what Mike said, and enjoyed the music and the dance. Next to her, Mr. Joe, who was teaching Maya how to dance, saw that the girl was getting better and better, and quietly stepped aside. He left the space for this pair of young men and women dancing. After dancing several times, Queen Regina, who was sitting on the sofa, put away her aunt's smile and stopped Mike and the others. Maya did a good job. You have passed the dance learning today. After Queen Regina affirmed her granddaughter, she said to Mike, who was standing quietly beside her, Mike, thank you for your help as well. With Mike present, the girl's learning progress was obviously much faster. Afterwards, Her Majesty the Queen asked Joe to prepare some small desserts and tea to entertain Mike and the others. It was not until the two of them had eaten and rested that Mr. Cairo sent them out of the villa. Standing at the door of the villa, Maya still felt a little unsatisfied. The girl's daily progress in learning etiquette is quantitatively stipulated. In the past, in order to complete the task, Maya needed to spend a lot of time, and the process was also very painful. However, studying with Mike today made the girl feel that learning etiquette is not that difficult. Mike, do you have plans in the afternoon? Do you want to visit my house? Maya happily invited. Meeting the parents again so soon. During this week, Mike basically grasped the girl's family situation. Because her parents divorced, Maya, who had been living with her artist mother at a young age, did not have a good childhood. Her mother, Miss Helen, dreamed of becoming an opera dancer. She had no other survival skills, and in order to raise her daughter, she once gave up her dream, and usually took some sewing and mending needlework to supplement the family income. Okay, I happen to have nothing to do in the afternoon. Mike thought for a while, and agreed to the girl's invitation. It is not far from where Maya lives, and it only takes more than 10 minutes to walk. So the two walked to their destination. At the same time, Mr. Cairo, who returned to the living room of the villa, saw the lonely side of the queen. It is always more difficult for a queen to manage a country than a man. She always has to show her elegant and strong side in front of people. Therefore, the position of queen is more of a burden for Ianity, or a responsibility to the people. You are tired. Joe went behind the queen with emotion and helped her to massage her shoulders to relax. More than 10 years of companionship have made Joe a personal assistant and the queen more like a family. And Her Majesty the Queen actually knows Joe's intentions. But it's still the same sentence. As a queen, Rianity's every word and action will be noticed by the people, so she can't do anything that will damage her status. Have they left? Queen Rianity did not refuse Joe's massage. She closed her eyes and chatted. What do you think of Mr. Mike? Joe and Queen Rianity had already investigated Mike's past experience. What Her Majesty wants to ask now is naturally how Joe feels about Mike after meeting him. In fact, calling Mike here today was also for the purpose of observing and testing him. He is very handsome and excellent, but I'm a little worried whether Princess Maya can grasp him. Mr. Joe gave his evaluation. Sometimes being too excellent is also a mistake. Joe can almost give Mike full marks for his performance today. However, thinking of the other party's lifestyle, the housekeeper still had a headache. It was a kind of complex emotion that parents worry about their younger generation meeting the wrong person. Yes, Joe has recognized Princess Maya's identity and treated her as a younger generation to take care of her. That child is really handsome, better than the princes of various countries I have seen. Queen Rianity smiled. Mike left a very good first impression on the queen today. He is smart and knows how to advance and retreat. People with these qualities are at least not waste. What do you think about us calling Mr. Mike to come together when Maya studies in the future? Queen Rianity, who had a plan in mind, asked. A perfect version at 1619 book bar. As a queen, Rianity knew that to become a qualified queen, she needed to go through a lot of things, and emotions were an indispensable part of it. With this understanding, it was easy to determine the attitude towards Mike. You decide. Mr. Cairo smiled and guessed the queen's mind. Moreover, this versatile butler also had his own confidence. He firmly believed that with his help and watch, Princess Maya would not suffer. Then it's decided. You will invite the other party on weekends in the future. If Mr. Mike is free, you can also take him and Maya together. Queen Rianity said, as if she had put down a worry. In 3 months, it is obviously very difficult to turn a country wild girl into a princess from the inside out. But Mike's role today made the queen see the possibility. Although it is a bit impolite to say this, Mike is indeed a good tool for Maya to become a princess. As you wish, Your Majesty. Looking at the relaxed expression on the queen's face, Mr. Cairo also smiled. Then, Mr. Cairo asked, my queen, may I have the honor to invite you to dance? The queen's job is not as easy as it seems to outsiders. She is always tense and needs some time to relax. Of course, you have the honor. And I haven't danced for a long time. Queen Rianity sighed, looked at the man who had been with her for more than 10 years, and then stood up gracefully. Companionship is the most long-lasting confession. After such a long time of companionship, it is impossible to say that Queen Regina has no good feelings for Mr. Cairo. As the soothing music sounded again, the two people in the room slowly leaned on each other like an old couple. "Maya, what kind of fruit does your mother like to eat?" Looking at the small market in front of him, Mike asked. The two are now almost at Maya's house, and not far away is a large old city. At the entrance of the old city, there is a market with a strong atmosphere of life. It is a bit impolite to go to a girl's house for the first time without bringing some souvenirs. Apples. I know a fruit shop that sells delicious and cheap apples. Maya, who grew up in a free-range environment, was not so pretentious. Then, the girl took Mike to a friendly fruit shop. After some bargaining, Mike had a bag of red apples in his hand. A few minutes later, the two crossed the main road, turned a few corners on the small road in the old city, and came to the side of an old residential building through an iron gate. This is a shortcut. As long as you go through this small iron gate, you will be at my home. Maya's carefree personality made her not realize that there was anything wrong with climbing the iron gate with the boy she loved. In other words, the girl subconsciously showed her true side in front of Mike. After all, she was a child who grew up in Texas. Unlike the timid girl in school, the girl's personality, after leaving school, is somewhat bold. "Let me show you first." Maya didn't care about her gorgeous long skirt. After pushing the iron gate open a crack, she bent over and was about to get into the door. The iron door was locked with an iron chain and was not tightly closed. If pushed hard, a gap would appear that was large enough for one person to pass through. Chapter 290 Maya's family, continued. Mike felt a little funny watching the girl crawling forward on her knees with her butt sticking out. Then he looked away and looked at the small iron gate in front of him. The height was about 2 meters, not very high. So Mike took a small run up, supported himself on the top of the iron gate with one hand, and easily entered the small gate with a handsome posture. Only then did the girl just squeeze through the gap. She pushed aside the broken hair blocking her eyes, looked back but didn't see Mike. Surprised, the girl looked around and accidentally met Mike's eyes behind her. "Hey, how did you get here? Why didn't I see you?" Maya calmed down her violent heartbeat and asked. "That's how you got here." Mike smiled and pointed to the top of the iron gate. "Did you jump over?" "That's amazing," Maya exclaimed, and then seemed to remember something. "By the way, I almost forgot that you are also a member of the school football team." As she said that, the girl's face showed an admiring expression. You know, the girl was first attracted by Mike's heroic appearance on the court, so she made a great determination to join the other side's fan club. "Okay, we're all in. Let's go to your house." Mike's words brought the girl back to her senses. Next, the two of them came to the external staircase on the side of the old residential building from the small path. There are many units on each floor of this residential building, and Maya's family lives on the top floor of the 6th floor. Just as the two were about to climb the stairs, the girl saw a man hiding on the side of the stairs from the corner of her eye. "Mr. Raymond, good afternoon. Are you collecting folk songs again?" Maya greeted with a smile. The man in the shadow of the stairs had a face full of stubble and looked very depressed. In front of him, there was a simple drawing board. Hearing the voice, the man raised his head, staring at Maya and Mike, and didn't say anything. "Mr. Raymond is a painter. Although he is not good at speaking, he is a very good person," Maya explained to Mike, and picked out a big apple from his handbag. "I wish you a good mood today." The girl put the apple on the stool next to the man, waved her hand, and pulled Mike up the stairs. At the back, the man on the side of the stairs seemed to have a long reaction arc. After Mike and the other man left, he opened his mouth and whispered, "Maya, good afternoon. And the guy next to you?" He looked completely socially anxious. But then, the man's eyes flashed, as if he had found inspiration, and he quickly replaced the canvas on the shelf, and then began to compose on the new canvas. Judging from the direction of the lines, it seemed to be a picture of man and a woman walking side by side. On the other side, Maya had already climbed up to the 6th floor with Mike. At this moment, the two stood side by side in front of an old wooden door. "It shouldn't be, my mother was usually at home at this time before." Maya knocked on the door several times, but there was no response. So the girl looked for the key in her shoulder bag. Yes, although she knew she was about to become a princess, Maya had never changed her habit of carrying a shoulder bag. As the key turned, the door was opened. Then a huge opera sound suddenly came from the room, accompanied by a woman's hoarse singing voice. It seems that my mother is at home. Maya smiled awkwardly and ran into the living room. In the small living room, a woman in pajamas was singing barefoot and with disheveled hair. Her selfless look was very relaxing to watch. "Mom, what are you doing?" Maya shouted, trying to attract her mother's attention. To be honest, it was very embarrassing for the girl to let outsiders see her mother's crazy side. Not to mention, this person was Mike. Finally, after the girl's several efforts, her mother found someone in the room. "Oh, baby. What did you say?" Helen turned to look at her daughter. "I said, what are you doing?" Maya's voice gradually became louder, but compared to the deafening opera sound, her voice was obviously not loud enough. "What did you say? I can't hear clearly." Helen put her hand to her ear, trying to listen. "I said, what are you doing?" Maya shouted at the top of her voice. At this time, Helen went to the phonograph and turned off the background music so that the girl's shouting became very abrupt. "Baby, you don't have to be so loud. Mom's ears are not deaf." Perhaps seeing her daughter's embarrassed expression and angry eyes, Helen changed the subject and said, "The phonograph your grandmother gave me is of great quality. Is the boy next to you your boyfriend? He's very handsome." It must be said that this topic change was really abrupt, but it was surprisingly effective for the girl. Maya looked shy and whispered, No, his name is Mike. He is my classmate and has helped me a lot. I mentioned him to you." "I understand. A hero saves a beauty." What a romantic development. As expected of an artist, the girl's mother, Miss Helen, has a romantic mind. "Hello, Mike. I'm Maya's mother, Helen Thermopolis. You can call me Aunt Helen." Miss Helen extended her hand enthusiastically and then turned around and whispered to her daughter, "You have a good eye. The other person is really handsome." There were only 3 people in the room, so there was no need to whisper. Read the correct version in 1619 book bar. However, it can be seen from here that Miss Helen has an eccentric personality. No wonder she can't get used to the rules and regulations of the royal family. At the same time, the mother is also very clear-headed. Instead of letting her daughter become a princess or even a queen of a country, she would rather her daughter live a happy life with someone she loves. "Hello, Aunt Helen. My name is Mike. This is a little gift I brought. Please accept it." Mike's speech successfully saved the girl, who was embarrassed. "Oh, it's an apple." Miss Helen took the bag with a smile, took out an apple from it, rubbed it on her clothes, and took a big bite. Very sweet. Later, Miss Helen gave a slurred evaluation. In fact, it can be seen that Miss Helen had a very good foundation when she was young, otherwise she would not have given birth to a daughter as beautiful as Maya. At this time, her carefree and rude appearance was not annoying. Mike now understands who Maya's carefree appearance is from. "Mike, do you like opera? I can teach you. Believe me, you look very suitable for performing opera." As expected of an artist, Miss Helen, who finished eating an apple, kept talking about her profession. It can also be said that Queen Reginada's financial support has reawakened Helen's passion for art. "Mom, this is the first time Mike has come to our house." Maya was really afraid that her mother's current appearance would scare Mike. "Oh, right. I forgot to ask, are you bringing Mike here for a date? Do you need me to go out and make room for you?" Helen stared at her daughter with a smile, as if joking. But no matter how you look at it, this mother is a bit nervous. "No, you stay here. I'll take Mike to the attic," Maya said angrily, turning around and pulling Mike to the stairs in the room. Because it is on the top floor, the girl's house has a skylight and there is another small room above. "Have fun." Miss Helen smiled and waved from behind. The girl seemed to want to get rid of her mother quickly, so she quickly climbed the vertical stairs. In an instant, the white skirt appeared in front of Mike. The skirt was very white and the skirt was very straight. Besides, the attic on the top of the building was not big enough to be used as a girl's private room. Maya didn't seem to have cleaned the room in advance. At this time, clothes, shoes, and socks were thrown everywhere in the room. Mike also saw black lace in it. "Sorry, it's a bit messy here." Maya threw herself on the quilt and quietly hid some personal belongings under the quilt. Then, she blushed and greeted, "You can sit anywhere." But the girl forgot that this small room was full of debris and there was no place to stand. Of course, this is not the point. The atmosphere has heated up to this point, but if you don't order anything, it would be worse than an animal. "Maya, you are so beautiful today." Mike took the initiative to put his arm around the girl's waist and then hugged her to sit on the quilt. As the charming atmosphere in the attic spread, the huge opera sounded again downstairs. Temperament attribute +5. Flexibility attribute +1. More than an hour later, Maya, dressed in home clothes, sat together with Mike, with a photo album in front of them. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Scientific Research Project. Maya, is this what you looked like when you were a child? You are really pretty and cute. A cigarette after dinner? No, a little tenderness after passion can effectively accelerate the warming of feelings. Mike was accompanying the girl to look through her family collection at this time, and he was not stingy with his praise. Maya in the photo had short boyish hair when she was a child, with small and delicate facial features, which was really cute. And Miss Helen in the photo was in her best years, and her outfit was very fashionable. She was a symbol of fashion beauty. But Mike also found that Maya's father did not appear in many photos. It was not until he turned to the last page of the album that a handsome photo of a young man appeared, and a small note was sandwiched on the back. The man in the photo had a thin face, strong facial features, and especially his eyes were very bright. "This is my father, Prince Thermopolis. I have never seen him, except in the photo." Maya looked a little sad. Unfolding the small note, there was a string of mottos written on it with a hard ink pen. It can be seen that the person writing is very strong, and it feels like the force penetrates the back of the paper. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that is more important than fear. Brave people will not live forever, but cautious people will not survive at all. Mike slowly read the content on the paper. "This is my grandmother's parting motto given to me by my father. It's a bit ridiculous to say that I have never even met him." Maya's eyes were already full of tears. As mentioned above, this is the encouragement that Prince Thermopolis gave to his daughter before he knew he was about to die. It is full of life philosophy and vaguely carries the righteousness of the family and the country. The words seem to encourage his daughter to take that step bravely and become the heir to the kingdom. But Prince Thermopolis seems to have forgotten that he is first a father. This is also the reason why Maya is sad. The real brave is not the one who has no fear, but the one who still moves forward with fear. Mike thought for a while and commented, "Thermopolis is a respectable person. Maybe the girl is still not in high spirits." Okay, we've finished looking through the family album. Next, let's continue doing something we love. Mike turned over and picked up the girl. Temperament attribute +5. Flexibility attribute +1. It turns out that doing something exciting is indeed effective in relieving emotions. Another hour later, the girl changed her clothes again and sent Mike out the door with a rosy face. "How is it? What stage have you reached? Have you got that?" After Mike left, Miss Helen suddenly appeared beside her daughter and asked gossipingly, "Time for a mother-daughter whisper." The girl nodded, then her face became even more rosy, and she shook her head again. Seeking excitement does not necessarily require that. Thinking of Mike's various novel requests, the girl felt a little embarrassed in front of her mother. "Whether it's true or not, why don't you say something?" Miss Helen said anxiously. "Forget it, or I'll teach you a few tricks, and I guarantee you can win the other party. I tell you, such an excellent boy is rare, and you will definitely regret it if you miss it. My business, don't worry about it." Listening to her mother's fierce words, in order to avoid embarrassment again, Maya climbed up to the attic in shame and anger. "Hey, what are you doing in the attic again? Dinner time is almost here. Come down quickly," Miss Helen shouted from below. Just like that, another week passed. During this week, as the relationship between Mike and Maya continued to heat up, the students in the school had already assumed that the two had become a couple. It was another weekend afternoon. After accompanying Maya to study with her grandmother, Mike, a mature time manager, took Lena back to Grandma Connor's house. Charm attribute +3. Holy Spirit experience +1. Holy Spirit experience +1. Who is prettier, me or Maya? During the tender time, Lena asked the question that women love to ask. Obviously, the situation in the school during this period made Lena a little jealous of Maya. Of course you are beautiful, Mike blurted out without thinking. For this kind of question, hesitation for a second is disrespectful to women. You answered correctly. Lena smiled happily and then said, actually, I know that I'm not as beautiful as Maya. It doesn't matter if you like her more. I just hope you don't leave me. In fact, Lena is very beautiful, but her luck is a bit bad. In the era of the Devil Body group, she was suppressed by the halo of Regina and others. Who knew that the 3 girls of the Devil Body group left, and now there is a Princess Maya. This made Lena a little unconfident. Of course, you are my baby. As long as you are willing, I will never leave you. Greasy words came out of Mike's mouth. It was just because of his good looks, charm, and temperament that he didn't sound greasy when he said these words. Well, I should go home, otherwise my mother and others will find out. Lena, who was satisfied physically and mentally, resigned like a scumbag. It has been more than a year, and the girl still maintains the image of a good girl in front of her parents, which is not easy. It was precisely because of this caution that Lena avoided a lot of trouble for herself and Mike. A perfect version in 16 to 9 book bar. Then again, who wouldn't like such a beautiful and sensible girl? After sending the girl away, Mike took her to Cooper's house for dinner under the contemptuous eyes of Peggy. Peggy, have you grown a little taller? Mike asked suddenly. I haven't noticed for a long time, and my little girl seems to have grown up a little. But this is not surprising. Little girls develop earlier, and it is understandable that she grows a little taller at the age of 10. To be precise, I have grown 3 centimeters since the turn of the year. Peggy used her fingertips to indicate a distance of 3 centimeters, then raised her head and glanced at a certain unscrupulous adult, and then left a proud back. It seems that this little girl is obsessed with height. At the Cooper family, the shadow of George's departure has dissipated. With the continuous increase in family income, coupled with the living expenses of one less child, the living standard of the Cooper family has reached a new level. Congratulations. At this time, there are all kinds of meat, vegetables, fruits, and vegetables on the table, and the nutrition is balanced. After praying, little Sheldon, who was eating apple pie, suddenly asked, Grandma, has Professor John contacted you recently? When will his research project be approved? This week, little Sheldon has fully proved that he has no management talent. Therefore, the power of this child with the title of Student Union President has been gradually taken away by the Vice President. There is nothing to do about it. Fortunately, little Sheldon is not obsessed with power, and he is not willing to take care of the troubles of the Student Union. It just so happens that there is a Vice President in the Student Union who is extremely power hungry and capable. The two of them just happen to live in harmony, and little Sheldon, who has no troubles, naturally returns his attention to the research project. He is still waiting to win the Nobel Prize in Physics in December this year with Professor John. He hasn't contacted me for a long time, but his research project should be implemented soon. Grandma Connie answered uncertainly. The honeymoon period of the relationship between the two elderly people has passed, and now it is an adult period. Grandma is an independent woman, and she can have fun alone. As for Professor John, he can be regarded as a geek, and he will ignore other things when he is busy with scientific research projects. In this case, it is understandable that the two have not contacted for a long time. Okay, I'll call him later to ask about the situation there. Little Sheldon was a little disappointed. Chapter 292 Research Projects continued. After dinner, little Sheldon called Professor John. Then, he got a good news. Professor John's project on thrust recovery has been implemented, and a research team can be formed next Monday. At the same time, Professor John sincerely expressed the hope that little Sheldon, Mike and Peggy can join his scientific research project. Then, that night, the excited little Sheldon rushed into Grandma Connor's house and shared the good news with Mike and Peggy. Aren't you excited? This is the most cutting-edge scientific research project nowadays, and it is expected to impact the Nobel Prize. Little Sheldon, who thought that the two would be as excited as himself when he heard the news, looked at Mike and the others in different reactions, and asked in surprise, "Of course I'm excited. This will be a good experience." Mike answered perfunctorily. In fact, he was not optimistic about Professor John's scientific research project. It was too rushed to impact this year's Nobel Prize. And although the thruster recovery project was very practical, it lacked a little innovation. Look at what other Nobel Prize winners in physics are studying: cosmic rays, quantum entanglement, element radioactivity research. These research projects are very innovative and have a whole set of independent concepts. It is difficult to achieve these 2 points. Usually, you need to have your own professional team to work hard in a certain field for several years or even decades. Okay. Little Sheldon did not bother about Mike's attitude, but excitedly discussed the matter of the three of them going to the University of Texas on Monday. In the end, Mike and Little Sheldon decided that starting from next Monday, the three of them would ask the school for an afternoon leave, and then Mike would drive the three of them to the University of Texas. As for Peggy on the side, she seemed to be uninterested in these questions. Time came to Monday, because Mike and the other two were super academic masters, and their knowledge had long exceeded the level that high school students should have. Therefore, the leave process for the three of them was very smooth. After lunch, Mike drove the two little guys to the University of Texas. At this time, in the laboratory of the University of Texas, Professor John and Dr. Linklater were grouping the project researchers. In order to advance the research process, the thruster recovery project will be divided into many research groups, and each research group will only be responsible for part of the work. Finally, Professor John and Dr. Linklater will summarize and control the overall trend of the research project. Seeing Mike and the other two coming, Professor John was very happy. With a wave of his hand, he divided the three into a separate group. Because the scientific research project has just started, there is no specific division of labor. So, after the group members were assigned, Professor John shouted, "Mike, Sheldon and Peggy, come here." Mike and Sheldon Jr. have published the paper Rocket Launch, so they are qualified to participate in more core work. At this time, Professor John, who was assigning tasks to each group, called the two to come over, just to listen to their opinions. As for Peggy, she is an accessory. Maybe the little girl has never thought that she, who has a super high IQ, will become a foil one day. "Mike, can you help me look at the tasks I assigned to each group? Is there any problem?" Professor John asked, standing in front of a huge writing board. There are many lines and annotations on the writing board, dividing the researchers into 8 groups, and each group is assigned different tasks according to the proportion. It's okay for now, but we can make adjustments based on the progress of each group's research in the future. Mike looked at the writing board and answered, "It is only the early stage of the project, and no one knows what will happen next. The smart thing to do is to leave some room and make adjustments when necessary." "I think so too." Professor John smiled. The old professor seemed to be ready for a big fight, and he looked full of fighting spirit. "Excuse me, I think there is a problem." Little Sheldon raised his hand. "I think our group can do more work." Because of the different proportions among the 8 groups divided on the writing board, 5 groups of members only need to perform repeated numerical calculations, which are the role of assistants. The remaining 3 groups have a definite research direction and are members of the core group. Little Sheldon and his 3 friends have been assigned to the core group, which accounts for a large proportion of the project. But Little Sheldon is still not satisfied with this result. He is also full of energy and wants to take charge of more work. "Sheldon, this is a team project, and everyone must do their best." Dr. Linklater, who is also responsible for the general planning, said in a confrontational manner. Obviously, Dr. Linklater is a little dissatisfied with Little Sheldon for personal reasons. But then again, Little Sheldon's age is indeed hard to trust. "What do you think?" Professor John looked at Mike and Peggy. Dr. Linklater was right. This scientific research was a team project after all. We couldn't ruin everyone's efforts just because of personal preferences. Therefore, it was necessary to determine the capabilities of each group. I still keep my previous opinion. If there are any problems, we can make adjustments in future work, Mike said conservatively. My opinion is the same as Mike's. Peggy immediately echoed. 2-1. The result is already obvious. A perfect version of the 16-9 book bar. Very good. Let's decide it first. Professor John smiled and handed a stack of information to Mike. These were all the information that Mike's team would need later. In fact, compared to Sheldon, Professor John valued Mike, the person who proposed the multi-stage propulsion theory, more. After that, Mike, who took the information, took Peggy and Sheldon to the research site of the three. It was a workstation with a computer and a propeller model. It is worth mentioning that for this scientific research project, Professor John and his partner applied to the school for a large research room, which looked like a large flat. In the large flat, several areas are divided according to different needs. The place where Mike and the other two are now is considered the core area, with a comfortable location and a wide view. Why? After arriving at the workstation, Sheldon was still unhappy. No reason. Mike shook his head and said, if you can prove your ability in research, you will get more scientific research work sooner or later. I will prove myself. Sheldon was obviously a little unwilling to admit defeat, and then he looked through the research materials. On the side, Mike and Peggy also devoted themselves to the research soon. In this way, with the orderly progress of the research project, time passed day by day. Although Mike and the other two only worked half a day these days, their smart brains were enough for them to make up for the time gap. Even because of Sheldon's enthusiasm, the project progress of the three-person team once surpassed the other two core groups. When it came to Friday afternoon, Sheldon, who handed over the current research results to Professor John, once again asked to take on more research work. Tomorrow is the weekend. If you can stay here all day, I should assign more work to your group. Professor John looked at the output of Mike's group and smiled. Mike, what do you think? As the research project progressed, Mike has become the captain of the three-person team. Sorry, Professor John, I have some personal matters on the weekend and may not be able to come to the research group. Study hard and rest well. Mike does not want to disrupt his life because of the research project. Oh, I almost forgot that you are not my colleagues in the university. Professor John thought for a while and said, how about this? You three don't have to come to the laboratory on weekends in the future. That is your personal time. No, I don't agree. I can take care of Mike and Peggy's weekend work. Little Sheldon protested immediately when he heard that he was going to let himself rest. As for Peggy on the side, she remained silent. In fact, if it weren't for Mike's company, the little girl would not want to come here. Professor John saw the reactions of the three people and said, okay, Sheldon, the weekend work of your group will be left to you in the future. This is good. Little Sheldon got more work he wanted, and Mike and Peggy got the rest they wanted. All three have bright futures. Chapter 293 Busy Mike. After Friday dinner, Mike and Peggy returned to Connor's grandmother's house and sat on the old sofa in her grandmother's house, watching soap operas on TV. They enjoyed their rare leisure time. Peggy, do you want to go with me to meet Maya's grandmother, Queen Regina, tomorrow? Mike suddenly asked. During this period, the little girl was either studying at school or doing scientific research in the university laboratory. On weekends, she stayed at home alone, accompanied by Mike's computer. There were no entertainment activities and no extra social activities. This boring life was not good for the growth of the little girl. Peggy's situation was different from that of little Sheldon. She didn't dislike socializing, but her super high IQ made it difficult for her to make friends. Queen Genovia? Sure, Peggy thought about it and answered. The identities of Maya and her grandmother are still kept secret. It was only because of Mike that Peggy obviously knew their identities. The little girl had seen Maya a long time ago. She was a girl with carefreeness written on her face, but she was unexpectedly gentle and kind in her heart. Overall, she was a good girl. Yes, Peggy, who has a very high IQ and EQ, can see people so accurately and thoroughly. And Maya's grandmother, who is in charge of the development of a small country, must be an extremely outstanding woman, so Peggy doesn't mind meeting her. Okay, I'll call Joseph and ask him to ask the Queen's opinion. Mike said. It would be very impolite for someone as prestigious as Queen Regina to visit her without her permission. After the call was connected, Mike informed Joseph of his intentions and gave him a general account of Peggy's situation. Soon, Joseph on the other end of the phone asked the Queen for her opinion and gave a positive answer. Queen Regina didn't mind Mike bringing an extra child over. Done. We can go to have lunch with the Queen together tomorrow at noon. Mike returned to the sofa and informed the little girl of the good news. Got it? Peggy's reaction was very flat, and then she moved a few times on the sofa, half leaning on Mike, and continued to watch the soap opera on TV. Everything seemed so warm. Saturday came. Although she had behaved very calmly last night, the girl still dressed up specially when she was going to meet the Queen. The off-white floral dress was very beautiful, and the bright fruit hair accessories on her head were also very cute. Then let's go. Let's pick up Maya first, and then go to see the Queen. The time is just right. When it was almost noon, Mike called Peggy, who was standing in front of the mirror, to go out together. During this period, unless Mike was not free, he was usually responsible for sending Maya to see her grandmother. As for Joseph's extended Lincoln, it was about to be laid off. At this time, the convertible Ferrari came to the old town again, and Maya was already waiting downstairs. Then, Mike took the girl and drove all the way to the Queen's villa. Sure enough, young people have to drive a convertible to be exciting. Soon the red Ferrari stopped outside the luxurious villa, and the serious looking butler came to greet him, and his eyes stayed on the little girl Peggy for a second longer. Then, the butler took the three people into the villa. Mr. Butler did not use the metal detector on Peggy, who came for the first time this time. It was obvious that the Queen had informed him in advance. In the living room, Queen Regina sat on the sofa as dignified as always. As Mike and the other two arrived, she stood up and looked at the newcomer Peggy, smiling and joking. Whose little angel is this? She is so cute. It turns out that even the Queen can joke sometimes. Perhaps because of her age, Queen Regina was very happy to see the little girl Peggy. Hello, Queen Regina. I'm Peggy. Peggy greeted politely. The Queen's elegant temperament made her not annoying. The two of them got along surprisingly well. Next, the Queen took the three of them to enjoy a sumptuous royal lunch. At the same time, she did not forget to instruct her granddaughter on dining etiquette while eating. Yes, Maya has not yet completely mastered the royal dining etiquette. On the one hand, the royal dining etiquette is too complicated, and on the other hand, because of the girl's carefree personality, she often ignores some details. After lunch, Maya will learn piano today. As a classical musical instrument, piano practice can make girls have an elegant temperament. This is very important. The teacher who is responsible for teaching the girl is still the versatile housekeeper. Here, Mike accompanied Maya to learn piano. Over there, little girl Peggy was unexpectedly pulled to the sofa by Queen Regina to chat. Piano playing experience +5. Piano playing experience +3. With the teaching of Mr. Butler, Mike said that today was another day full of harvest. But this is hard for Maya, the future princess of the kingdom. The stiffness of her slender fingers once made Mr. Butler doubt whether she is really suitable for learning to play the piano. Musical sense and hand feeling are things that others can't teach. The only way to improve is to practice more. So, Maya, who was tortured by the piano keys for 2 hours, ran out of the villa, as if fleeing after finishing today's study. On the other side, little girl Peggy seemed to be in a good mood. She had a pleasant chat with Queen Regina this time, and even when saying goodbye, the Queen invited the little girl to come and play again next time. Check out the error-free version on the 16:9 book forum. How about we go shopping in the commercial street? Mike suggested in the red Ferrari. Then, his suggestion was unanimously agreed by the two girls. The town of Telford is actually very large, with a large area and sparse population. Only the commercial street is always lively. Not long after, Maya's mood improved under the influence of the lively atmosphere of the commercial street. Then a delicious strawberry ice cream made the girl forget the unhappiness completely. Later, in order to take care of Peggy, Mike took the two ladies to the amusement park. Here, although Peggy said childishly, she was happier than anyone else when playing bumper cars and roller coasters. In the evening, Mike treated the two ladies to a special chicken dinner, and then ended the happy day. After sending Maya home, Mike and Peggy rushed back to their grandmother's house and saw Grandma Connie sitting on the sofa in the living room without turning on the lights. She lowered her head slightly and looked a little depressed. This kind of emotion is not common in Grandma. "Connie, what happened?" Mike took Peggy to sit on the sofa. Connie's grandmother was very happy when she went out this morning. Because Mike was not going to the University of Texas today, Connie's grandmother took little Sheldon to the laboratory there instead. Similarly, this was a good opportunity for Connie's grandmother to visit Professor John. The two elderly people who have confirmed their relationship have not seen each other for a long time. For this reason, Connie's grandmother actually dressed up well when she went out this morning. I don't know how to say it. Connie's grandmother organized her words. "I feel that John likes those research projects more than me." After getting older, Connie's grandmother pays more attention to the spiritual resonance with her partner, commonly known as the spiritual love method. Therefore, she can tolerate not meeting each other, but she can't tolerate the other party not having herself in his heart. Professor John's personality is a bit like little Sheldon, slow to perceive emotions, and a bit self-centered. Especially when they are doing what they like, they will deliberately block out the interference around them. Therefore, it is not difficult to imagine that Connie's grandmother, who was looking forward to reuniting with Professor John today, must have been treated coldly by the other party. This Mike, who understood the whole story, didn't know how to persuade Grandma Connie. In fact, in his opinion, Grandma Connie and Professor John were no longer suitable to be lovers. From their knowledge to their personalities and what they pursued, they were very different, like people from two different worlds. What's worse is that neither of them was the type to accommodate the other. Thank you for listening to an old man's nagging. I feel much better. After talking, Grandma Connie seemed to be in a much better mood. "Okay, I need to go to sleep, and you should also go to bed early." After that, she got up and walked towards the room. It can only be said that this is indeed worthy of Grandma Connie, much more free and easy than ordinary people. Chapter 294 Busy Mike continued. In the following period of time, the unyielding Grandma Connie seemed to want to re-establish her position in Professor John's heart. So she went to the University of Texas to see Professor John more often. As for Mike, he went to school in the morning, the University of Texas in the afternoon, accompanied Maya to see her grandmother on weekends, and took time to communicate with Lina. Life can be said to be busy and fulfilling. But as time came to July, the summer college summer football game began, and Mike really felt a little too busy. First of all, on Maya's side, as the time of the Genovese royal family gathering was getting closer, the etiquette courses that the girl needed to learn became more and more arduous. Therefore, she needed more help from Mike. Secondly, Professor John's research project. Although there was no big mess, the research process was speeding up again and again. There was no way. Although the results of the Nobel Prize were selected in early December every year, the submission of the selection qualifications was probably in October. That is to say, the thruster recovery research project needs to produce results within the next 3 months. In this case, Professor John wanted to split the researchers into two people. Under this urgent situation, Mike and his group of elites must take on more work. The last is the school's summer football league. Not only did Coach George express his strong desire to let Mike return to the team, even the old Principal Sam personally approached Mike. Principal Sam has already decided to resign as principal after Christmas this year. Therefore, he hopes to see the school win more honors in the last 6 months of his tenure. This seems to have become the old man's obsession. The situation has become so serious that Mike can't even say anything when he wants to turn down the activities of the football team. So he can only turn himself into a time management master and turn around between the three teams. The only good news is that there is no dog blood plot in the school football team. Mike became the captain of the team very smoothly, and the players were also very willing to cooperate with his style of play and tactics. In this way, Mike and his new teammates easily won the first game in early July. At the same time, Mike also took time to go to the state newspaper to discuss the release of posters with manager James. However, due to the star-making effect of the newspaper last time, manager James hesitated and said that if Mike wanted to continue the cooperation this time, he would need to give up more benefits. However, the situation was different at that time, and manager James obviously misjudged the situation. Mike, who was in a booming stock market, really had no shortage of these small amounts of money, so he turned around and found reporter Jack to cooperate. Reporter Jack was the first person the TV station bet on Mike. Now he has been transferred back to the TV department and has become a team leader in the TV department. Seeing Mike looking for him again, Jack was very happy and immediately said that he could ask for less share. However, Mike insisted that the two of them should still split the profits 50-50. The production and distribution of the posters all required Jack to find people. Mike was a hands-off boss who only waited for the final distribution of money, so there was no need to take advantage of him. The actual situation was that Jack's attitude made Mike recognize him as a friend, so he was willing to win-win with the other party. A week later, it was mid-July. Before the start of the second elimination game, Jack brought Mike bad news. Manager James from the TV station and newspaper announced that no matter how well Mike performed in this year's summer league, his news would not be published in the newspaper. At the same time, Jack also brought good news to Mike. The leader of the TV department said that as long as Mike continued his hot performance in the first half of the year, the TV department promised to make a sports documentary special for him after the season. "I'm afraid this is your idea again." Mike stared at Jack and said with a smile. The other party brought a larger professional filming team this time, obviously preparing for the subsequent TV special. "Come on, try to lead Melford to the finals, and there will be a live broadcast at that time." Jack answered irrelevantly, but the meaning was already very clear. Later, in the second round of eliminations, Mike lived up to expectations and led his teammates again, defeating the opponent again with a brilliant performance. So far, Mike's title as a rising star in football has reappeared in the vision of many football fans even without the publicity of newspapers. At the same time, with the support of the old principal on campus, Mike once again became the hero of Melford High School only halfway through the season. For a time, in Texas, a land where strength speaks, Mike's popularity even surpassed that of ordinary second-rate stars. Reputation and wealth are all within reach. What Mike has to do now is to continue to win more games. Another week passed, and the Melford football team made great strides, once again defeating its opponents with strong strength and successfully advancing to the finals. In this series of consecutive victories, the star tactics also demonstrated its power, that is, the ability to create stars. Mike, who is at the core of the team, once again became popular and was in the limelight. This is the charm of Crazy July. Time came to the end of July. On the day of the final, Melford's opponent this time was Austin High School, which looked down on them in the invitational tournament in the first half of the year. The venue for this live broadcast of the final was chosen to be the Texas Stadium. The Texas Stadium is a stadium specially prepared for various large-scale events, with 50,000 seats in the audience alone. The various sports facilities in the stadium are also very complete and advanced. At this time, this grand exposed sky stadium was filled with rugby fans from all over Texas. Don't be nervous, kids. We have created a miracle. Next, I just hope you can enjoy this game. Coach George was instructing the players in the pre-match preparation area. Although he said he was not nervous, facing such a grand occasion, Coach George's hands were shaking. Come on Mike, come on Mike, come on, Wonder Boy. The game was still a while away when huge cheers came from the audience. Everyone loves Mike. A perfect version of the book in 1619. There may be a traitor in the TV station. A few days ago, this person exposed the conflict between Mike and the newspaper department. So now Mike has inexplicably gained another nickname of Wonder Boy. Many people seem to regard Mike as their spiritual sustenance. These people like Mike's fighting spirit. This is also thanks to James. His deliberate difficulties seem to have given Mike the opportunity to become a god. Go, take the players to warm up. Coach George, who had been watching the time and the rest area, reminded Mike when there were still 10 minutes before the game started. Follow me. Mike, wearing the captain's armband, stood up and called his teammates. At the same time, the sidelines lit up with flashes of photos. Obviously, the scene of Mike standing up to greet his teammates was recorded by many people. All I could see was shining lights and cheers like a tide. Because it was a semi-enclosed venue, standing in the center of the stadium, I could feel that the cheers of the audience were particularly enthusiastic. The stadium with 50,000 people was full of dense crowds of crazy cheers. Facing such a big scene, the athletes on the court were able to keep their movements straight, which was considered a big part. At this time, Mike, who had walked around the field, returned to the center of the field and saw that many teammates were so nervous that they couldn't even move their legs. Obviously, this group of new players of the Melford rugby team had never seen such a big battle and were a little scared. Melford Mike stretched out his hand and shouted, "We must win." The teammates gathered around tacitly and put their hands together. Melford must win. Sure enough, at certain moments, a good leader can pass on positive emotions to his teammates. Being here proves that you are excellent. So you don't have to be afraid of anyone, even if the opponent is last year's league champion team. Mike encouraged his teammates. Soon the warm-up time ended, and this year's Summer Rugby League finals officially kicked off. The Melford rugby team was lucky to get the ball in the guessing phase, and the offensive and defensive teams of both sides walked to the center line of the field at the same time. Just like before, everyone follow me closely. Believe me, victory belongs to Melford. During the preparation time, Mike loudly reminded his offensive team members. The tactics of the Melford rugby team are very simple, that is, to play the star tactics around Mike. This is known to everyone who has learned about the recent games of the Melford rugby team. However, this simple and crude tactic is amazingly powerful when used by the Melford rugby team, just because they have a strong core. This is another explanation for Mike's title of Wonder Boy. He seems to always bring the audience the surprise they want. Beep. The game whistle sounded. Chapter 295. Glory to Melford. Go, go, go. Facing the cheers of the whole stadium, Mike suddenly started with the ball. His figure was like a cheetah full of power. Before the opponent could get into the state, he had already crossed the crowd and rushed into the opponent's end zone. Touchdown. The game had only started for a few seconds, and the Melford football team had already taken the lead and scored 6 points. Oh, what did I see? The Melford forward was like a cold-blooded killer. He killed the game in just a few seconds. Yes, I'm sure that the strength of this player Mike is far superior to other high school students. His performance should appear in the professional arena. The two hosts who were responsible for warming up and commentating the game on the spot, considering Mike's popularity and excellent performance, immediately praised him. Of course, Mike's performance in this round was also worthy of these praises. At the same time, the live broadcast screen was also given to Mike. At this time, he was raising his arms, smiling and waving to the audience. Then the camera was given to the faces of the Austin players. They had just lost a goal, and their faces were filled with negative emotions such as confusion, annoyance, and disbelief. It was in sharp contrast with the Melford players who were cheering on the other side. Next, let's see how the Melford football team uses their second scoring opportunities. It looks like they are still going to use the start tactics. Mike carries the ball into the end zone again. I feel like the game is over. No one can stop the Melford team. With the commentary, Mike, who once again led the team to win a round of full marks on the offensive end, has led his team off the field to make substitutions in the offensive and defensive teams. Melford's excellent performance on the offensive end in the first round is bound to hit the opponent's morale. The Austin football team knew what tactics Melford would use and who the opponent's core players were, but they still couldn't defend against this kind of clear-cut style of play, which greatly dampened the enthusiasm of the players. Well done, Mike. Keep it up. During the rotation time, Coach George encouraged Mike, the absolute main force. Since Mike's star tactics have worked, Coach George's tactical formulation has become easier and easier. The offensive team has Mike as a killer, so he doesn't have to worry about it. He only needs to consider how to let the defensive team members maintain the score advantage. Don't worry, Coach George. The champion of this summer league will definitely belong to Melford, Mike said confidently. In the last round of offense, Mike has basically figured out the overall strength of the Austin football team. Although it is better than the average high school team, it is also limited. This last year's championship team seems to be a bit unworthy of its reputation. Of course, Mike underestimated one thing, that is, his own physical fitness has reached an inhuman level. In this case, he sees everyone as a weakling. Therefore, the initiative of this summer league is actually in his hands from beginning to end. As long as Mike is willing, he can sweep the game alone. Isn't it a coincidence? It just so happens that in the invitational tournament in the first half of the year, the Austin football team humiliated the former Melford football team, so Mike is going to give the opponent a little shock of strength today. As the game continues, Mike, who leads the offensive team again, gradually lets go. From strength, skills, speed and other aspects, the opponent's psychological defense line is broken again and again. So the next game became a tormenting journey for the Austin football team. And for the audience who support Melford and Mike, it is a visual feast. The scene was once very brutal, but who says we Texans love this? An hour later, the game finally came to an end amid the cheers of the audience that lifted the roof of the stadium. The Melford team won the victory with a huge difference due to Mike's little show. At the same time, when the Melford players welcomed the cheers, the Austin football players who had been tortured for the whole game quietly withdrew from the field. Many of them were glad that they were still alive. You know, although Mike did not deliberately go to hurt people in this game, his strong physical fitness still made the opponent injured if he was not careful. After a game, Austin replaced 3 defensive tackles because of injuries. Coach, it's almost time for the award ceremony. Mike in the stadium celebrated with his teammates and went to the edge of the stadium. In the rest area outside the stadium, Coach George fell into a daze. It seemed that happiness came too suddenly, so he didn't react for a while. "Oh, I'll be there." After hearing the voice prompt, Coach George stood up straight and then pulled his brand new suit again and again. In order to express his importance to today's game, Coach George prepared a formal outfit for himself before the game. It was just in time for him. "Is my hair messy?" Coach George asked in a low voice when he entered the competition venue. "No, you look very handsome now," Mike replied with a smile. Coach George used to be gentle and calm, and it was rare to see him at a loss because of nervousness. A perfect version in 1619 books and bars. "That's good." Coach George nodded, his expression still tense. But this is understandable. After all, when he was a professional football player, he was always unknown. Later, when he was a college football coach, his team's performance was not ideal, and he was even fired by the college team. Under such circumstances, who would have thought that he, who had fallen to the level of a football team for high school students, would actually usher in his highlight moment here? The college summer league champion. This honor is not bad. Just as Coach George sighed about life, the Melford players hugged each other to celebrate, and the audience cheered. A temporary podium had been built in the center of the venue, where the game had just been held. Then, surrounded by the players, Mike and Coach George stood in the middle of the podium, surrounded by the still excited players. Next, in the presence of the media and the audience, the league organizers presented each member of the Melford rugby team with a small golden medal. Finally, the golden ball-shaped trophy was handed to Mike and Coach George. With the ribbons flying, the scene of Mike and Coach George holding the trophy high was recorded by countless flashing cameras on the scene. "Thank you, Mike. You are the best player I have ever coached, no one else." Coach George suddenly sighed. You know, Coach George, who has worked hard for rugby for many years, felt a full sense of accomplishment in this sport for the first time. After the award ceremony, it was time to interview the champion team. At this moment, Mike was instantly crowded with microphones. Due to the fighting power shown by his strong physique, the reporters asked countless strange questions in a targeted manner, which made him almost dizzy. This really feels more tiring than playing another game. Finally, during a break between reporters' questions, Mike saw Principal Sam and a group of school teachers standing not far away. Obviously, the teachers of Melford High School also attached great importance to this important game today and specially formed a team to come to the scene to support their school. Wait a minute. Mike squeezed through the crowd and went to the middle of the teacher team and said to the reporters who followed him, "These are my teachers at Melford High School. This is Principal Sam. This is the Dean of Studies. They have provided a lot of help for the Melford football team to achieve today's results. So if you have any questions about the team, you can ask them." Mike used a trick of diverting trouble to others, pushing the school teachers to the front, and he himself stepped back. Of course, this scene that Mike found troublesome was an opportunity for the school teachers to show their faces, and it was also a good opportunity to promote the school. Anyway, the smile on Principal Sam's face showed that he was very happy now. Chapter 296 Unexpected Visitors. There were many students from Melford High School who came to watch the game, especially Mike's classmates. After they showed their identities, they were allowed to enter the venue to celebrate together. Maya, Lina, and Peggy were among them. Seeing that Mike was free, Maya ran over and gave him a hug. At the same time, Lina was also fascinated by Mike's dazzling charm today and couldn't help but walk to the other side of Mike and hugged him. Then Mike was hugged by the reporters. When Mike led the team to win the league championship in today's Summer League live broadcast, it was destined that he would become a household name in Texas in the next period of time. At the same time, his fighting spirit will even become a totem that many people follow. And such a rising superstar, his gossip will definitely be very popular. Many reporters have even thought of the title of the gossip. Surprise! The Magic Boy and His Princesses. The story that the Magic Boy and the girls have to tell! Exclamation mark. The secret of the Magic Boy's magic. Never trust the professional ethics of reporters who only want to make a big news. Mike naturally didn't know what the reporters were thinking. He spent some time with the two girls, then went to the Melford students who were looking at him eagerly and high-fived them to celebrate. Congratulations, Mike, you did it, you became a hero. When Mike was free again, Jack from the state TV station came over and gave his blessings. Thank you. Mike went up and hugged him. The two have known each other for more than a year, and now they are considered comrades in arms. Another good news, your documentary should be on TV next week. In the future, you will definitely become the hottest star in Texas, Jack said with a smile. The reason why Mike's documentary was produced so quickly this time was also because Jack bet on it. Yes, a few weeks ago, Jack bet that Mike could lead the Melford team to the finals. It was from that time that he had called on his colleagues in the same group to start making documentaries. As the saying goes, opportunities are reserved for those who are prepared. Fortunately, Jack made the right bet again this time. In fact, things developed better than he imagined. As Mike's popularity continued to rise, the credit for the documentary production would also become Jack's capital for further advancement in the TV station. Next, Jack told Mike about the sales of his posters and left in a hurry. He needed to return to the TV station as soon as possible to thoroughly implement the documentary. The celebration at the Texas Stadium lasted for more than an hour before Mike, his teammates, and the teachers and students of Melford got on the bus and set off on the return journey. On the Melford campus, many students who had watched the Summer League at home gathered here, just waiting for the football team to come back and celebrate together. It can only be said that football is worthy of being the most popular sport in the United States, and its influence is unimaginable. After the bus team entered the campus, the students waiting here surrounded the team like a zombie siege. Listen to me, our players need to rest, and the celebration will be left for later. The great honors won by the football team for the school made Tom, the old principal, glow with a second asterisk. At this time, he stood on the bus with a red face and informed the students below. Next Friday, a grand bonfire party will be held on campus to thank all members of the football team for the honor they have won for the school. You can bring your friends and family to participate in this carnival. It should be said that Tom is indeed worthy of being the old principal. Taking advantage of the momentum of the football team, holding a collective event to share the glory in the school can easily make students feel a sense of belonging and identity with the school. In this way, perhaps in more than 10 years, many students in this class will still remember this summer. After hearing that the celebration was held next Friday, the surrounding students cheered for a while and temporarily let go of the members of the football team who had just returned. Time passed day by day, and in the following week, the members of the football team became the most popular people in the school. There were even many students who, out of their admiration for Mike, formed groups to ask him for autographs. After a few days of fermentation, Mike has become a real popular star. At the same time, in order to prepare for the celebration on Friday, various ribbons and slogans were gradually hung on the campus. All clubs and classes also began to rehearse urgently, preparing to perform at the celebration on Friday. As time went by, the students' enthusiasm for the celebration was no less than their love for Christmas. Finally, it was Friday afternoon, and the venue layout, program arrangement, safety, props, costumes, etc. of the celebration were all ready. A decent temporary stage appeared in the center of the school playground. The lighting, curtains, stage design, etc. all took a lot of effort. A correct version in the 16:9 book bar. It can be seen that the school has put out a lot of funds for this celebration. As night fell, the playground was full of people who came to celebrate early, including students of the school and many new faces. According to the old principal's idea, today's celebration does not refuse outsiders to participate. Dear guests and friends, good evening. With the opening remarks, the Dean of Studies Tim appeared on the stage to act as the host. After a simple greeting, the old principal Tom was invited to the stage to give a speech. Then, the old principal and the host jointly invited all members of the protagonist football team to the stage. Amid the applause of the audience, dozens of team members wearing rugby uniforms walked out of the crowd and went to the center of the stage to receive the cheers of the crowd. Then, head coach George and his assistant coach, dressed in a neat suit, also walked to the stage from one side. Next, there was a series of speeches. Among them, George, the head coach of the team, and Mike, the current captain of the team, received special attention. This link is the main project of today's evening party, so it took a long time. And out of love for the team, the audience also gave warm applause in this link. After all the players finished expressing their thoughts, the evening party entered the program performance link. Next, the performers of the first program are outstanding alumni who just graduated from school this year. They are a group. This summer, they have swept a storm of youth across the country. After the long title introduction, Tim said loudly, "Please welcome the song performance of the Devil Body Group, Love Story." The Devil Body Group successfully launched its first album Small Town Girl this summer with several hit songs written by Mike for them. With their youthful and beautiful appearance and fresh song style, they have created a youth storm across the country. From the album release to now, more than 3 months later, their album sales have accumulated more than 600,000 copies. This is almost unimaginable for this new group, given their current achievements, even though Regina and the other two did not actually get their high school diplomas. Melford High School has already listed them as honorary alumni. Mike, who was sitting with Maya under the stage, felt that something was wrong as he listened to the host's words. As a result, he looked up and saw 3 beautiful girls walking out from behind the stage curtain. Chapter 297 Meeting. Accompanied by brisk and soft music, 3 girls dressed freshly and beautifully like big sisters next door appeared on the stage. Now they have shed the immaturity of their school days, and their singing skills and temperament have greatly improved. Or in other words, they are more professional. After a love song, the Devil Body Group sang 2 new songs from the album. Then, for the 4th song, the Devil Body Group chose to perform the Christmas single We Wish You a Merry Christmas that they released when they were still in school. At the same time, before the performance, the girls looked at Mike sitting in the audience and enthusiastically invited him to perform on stage together. Students at Melford High School all know that the Devil Body Group was very close to Mike last year, and the single released by the Devil Body Group last Christmas was also written and composed by Mike. Therefore, students who like to watch the excitement are also happy to see the strong joint performance of Mike and the Devil Body Group. But at this time, Mike was completely confused. He did not get the news in advance that the 3 girls of the Devil Body Group would appear at the celebration. Looking at the cheers of the audience and the eager expressions of the 3 girls on the stage, Mike whispered an apology to Maya beside him and stood up and walked onto the stage. "What are you doing?" Mike asked quietly during the interval of the music. "Surprise, how about this surprise? Karen and I prepared it for you." Regina's eyes were cunning. The popularity of the new album of the Devil Body Group has not yet passed. In order to achieve higher sales, they should have promoted the new album in major cities across the country during this period. Appearing here at this moment, it is obviously to surprise Mike. However, this form of surprise is more surprising than joyful for Mike now. Before the 2 people on the stage can communicate more, The prelude of the Christmas song We Wish You a Merry Christmas has sounded. This song, released by the three girls of the Devil Body group last Christmas, has also sold well in Texas, and it has been nearly a year since the release date. So for many students and audiences below, this song is not unfamiliar. Therefore, this warm Christmas song finally became a chorus of everyone. As the song ended, the performance of the Devil Body group today also ended. The three girls who finished the performance did not go backstage, but followed Mike to sit in the audience. The stage was left to various clubs and classes, who took turns to perform their prepared programs. During each program, the temporary host Mr. Tim would also take the time to play some number games and guessing games with the audience below, mobilizing the enthusiasm of the audience. Judging from the continuous cheers at the scene, the school's celebration this time was very successful. "Why are you here?" Mike, who was surrounded by three girls in the audience, asked the doubts in his heart. "Of course, we are here to promote our new album. In the next week, we will tour various small towns in Texas," Regina explained with a smile, but there was a little pride in her smile. In fact, according to the promotion schedule, Miracle Company first considered to let the Devil Body group give priority to promoting in large cities with more developed economies. That would make it easier to increase the sales of the new album. The three girls had been following Mike's movements, and when they knew that he won the Summer League championship and the school was preparing to hold another celebration, Regina, together with the remaining two girls, applied to the company for this trip back to campus. The company took care of the three girls' emotions and learned about Mike's current situation in Texas, the hottest superstar in Texas. Considering that the three girls' roots are in Texas, if they operate properly, they can completely take advantage of Mike's fame this time to open up the Texas market. Therefore, after weighing it again and again, Miracle Company finally agreed to the three girls' application. On the other hand, the 3 months of debut time made the three girls of the Devil Body group feel like they were in a different world. When they saw Mike at this time, they had a lot of happy and unhappy things to talk to each other about. For example, the hardships they suffered during the company's training, and the interesting things during the promotion of the new album. Maya, who was squeezed aside and couldn't say anything, also knew some gossip about the Devil Body group and Mike. At this moment, looking at the three girls who were as good looking as her, chattering around her boyfriend, it was impossible not to be jealous. But soon Maya thought of a more serious problem. Although she and Mike were already close, neither of them seemed to have confessed their feelings. This means that from a social relationship perspective, the two were not strictly boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. This discovery made the girl feel inexplicably heavy. Turning around, she saw Mike happily talking and laughing with the three beautiful girls, and Maya's defense was broken. Without saying hello to anyone, she quietly got up and walked out of the playground. The dejected back formed a sharp contrast with the lively celebration behind her. "Sorry, I'll be away for a while." Mike noticed the girl's departure keenly, so he said hello to Regina and the other two, and chased after her. Regina, who watched Mike chase him from behind, had a twinkle in her eyes, and then she found Lina, who was sitting next to Peggy, and asked, "Is that girl Mike's new girlfriend?" "Yes." Lina did not hide anything, but instead said something good for Maya. Maya is a very good girl. It can be said that the four girls, including Lina, knew each other, and they also had a clear understanding of Mike's fickleness. The four of them could live in peace before, and now it doesn't seem to be a big deal to add another sister. A perfect version in 1619 book bar. Interesting. Let's go meet Mike's new girlfriend. Regina, who had a strong personality, called to companions beside her, and then walked out of the playground. Although she didn't think of monopolizing Mike, the fact that the other party had just abandoned her to chase his new girlfriend obviously made Regina, the queen bee, a little dissatisfied. "Don't you want to go over and take a look?" Peggy, who watched the good show from a close distance, asked Lina beside her with a smile. Peggy, who has not grown up yet, is more like an outsider. With high IQ and EQ, she is actually willing to see Mike suffer emotionally so that he can change his philandering habits. At this time, the little girl was smiling, but she was missing a handful of melon seeds. "I won't make trouble. I hope Mike can handle the relationship between Maya, Regina and the other two," Lina answered without fighting or competing. She has a gentle personality and is so sensible that it makes people feel distressed. On the other side, Mike, who chased to the periphery of the playground, stopped Maya here. Why did you chase me out? Don't you want to chat with your three sweethearts? Maya, who was broken, was a little hysterical. Oh, I forgot. I'm not yours. I have no right to care about your business. Girls who are at the age of fantasy of love, who doesn't want to have a perfect relationship. However, Maya now realizes that she took it for granted before, and she didn't really understand Mike. To her, the image of the other party is more like a shining star. The girl is more like someone who has been redeemed in the dark night and chases the stars. You are Mike's new girlfriend, and you don't look that good, do you? Before Mike could speak to comfort the girl, Regina and her two sisters came after her. Seeing that Maya seemed to be throwing a tantrum, the queen bee naturally didn't indulge her. Who are you talking about me with? Maya, who has a carefree personality, is naturally not lacking in courage. At this moment, she seemed to want to bring things to light and make them clear. This is the rhythm of Sherifield. Mike and the three girls of the Devil Body group standing by the playground are now well-known people, and their every move will inevitably attract more attention. For example, many of the audience at the celebration are paying attention to the good show next to the playground. I don't know if it's an illusion, but Mike always feels that there are too many reporters at the celebration today. Yes, there are many cultural workers carrying photographic equipment and press cards in the audience. Everything can be discussed. How about we find a place to sit down and talk slowly? Considering that it would be ugly to quarrel in public, Mike gestured to the four girls in front of him to a temporary small tent not far away. That tent should be a dressing room prepared by a performance group, and it was empty at the moment. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Identity Exposed. Perhaps considering that it would be unpleasant to fight in public, the four girls followed Mike to the small tent after listening to his suggestion. Because it was a temporary dressing room, the tent was not large, and the 5 people squeezed in it seemed a bit crowded. In the small space, the 4 girls stood in 2 groups with Mike as the center. On one side was Maya, the royal princess. After the initial break, she seemed to have calmed down. At this moment, she was staring at Mike, waiting for his explanation. On the other side were the 3 girls of the Devil Figure group, among whom Regina was also staring at Mike with interest. The other 2 girls, Karen and Gretchen, had a playful expression, as if they were watching a play. It was a bit like a combination of Peggy and Lina. Maya, I have something to confess to you. Mike organized his words and said, in fact, besides you, I have also been dating other girls. But I can guarantee that I'm absolutely sincere to you. So what is this? Am I the third party? Maya, who felt that her feelings were being played, thought it was ridiculous. As mentioned before, the girl was confused by Mike's halo before and didn't really understand him. Now she felt a little disillusioned. The third party? No. Didn't Mike tell you about his relationship with us? Regina counted on her fingers like a victorious peacock, adding fuel to the fire. According to the order, you can only be ranked 5th at most. The 3 members of the Devil Body group plus Lina, according to the order of first come first served. Among Mike's confidants, Maya is the 5th. Maya felt that things were getting more and more absurd, and her 3 views were shocked. Then, she still looked at Mike and asked for confirmation. Besides these 3, who are you with? Lina? Seeing Mike nod slightly, the girl's emotions were on the verge of collapse. She may not have paid attention to this aspect before, but now thinking back, Mike and Lina seemed to be a little too intimate at some moments in their daily interactions. You make me sick. Maya, who had figured out the strangeness, felt angry for being cheated and betrayed. After glaring at Mike fiercely, the girl walked out of the tent angrily. She didn't want to see Mike for a second now. Aren't you going to chase your little lover? Without the outsider, Regina immediately entangled with Mike. I think the person she least wants to see now is me, and this kind of thing requires mutual consent. Although it was shameless to do so, Mike did not intend to give up the entire forest for a certain tree. Even if the other party was a princess, it would not work. "You are such a bad man," Regina commented with a smile. This also shows from the side that women don't love men who are not bad. What's more, this man is good enough. Just as the atmosphere in the small tent was gradually heating up, there was a commotion outside. It sounded like Lena was in trouble. "Excuse me, are you really the Princess of Genovia? Princess Maya, what is your relationship with the magic boy? Are you really dating? Princess Maya, can you tell me what happened in the tent just now?" A group of reporters carrying guns and cannons seemed to have received inside information and confirmed that Maya was a princess. The love between a princess from another country and a country boy would definitely catch people's attention. What's more, this princess was suspected of stealing a man from another girl. This is simply the big news that any reporter dreams of. Yes, this group of reporters who were looking for news heat smelled the smell of gossip when Mike brought 4 girls into the tent. In order to make a big news, they had been watching not far from the tent before. It can be said that hard work pays off. The expression on Maya's face when she came out just now gave these reporters a lot of room for imagination. Princess of another country falls in love with a sports boy. Princess Genovia's love story. Princess Genovia vs the Devil Body combination. Such titles are very interesting just to think about. At this moment, Princess Maya, who was surrounded by reporters, had more panic and helplessness on her face. This girl who grew up in a small town as an ordinary person was not able to cope with the current situation. Make way, Mike, who came over after hearing the sound, separated the reporters to the middle, then protected Maya behind him, and whispered to confirm, "Are you okay?" Unlike the girl, Mike saw more. First of all, the work badges hanging on the reporters in front of him showed that they were not local reporters in Texas. And from their precise behavior of finding Maya, they should have known the girl's identity long ago, and their purpose this time was obviously to get big news. At this moment, Mike was protecting Maya, and the picture of the 3 girls of the devil figure group around him was also taken by the group of reporters. "You have to leave here." Mike guessed the intention of the group of reporters after a little thought. After giving the 3 girls of the devil figure group around him a look for help, he pulled Maya, who was still in a daze, and squeezed out of the campus. Fortunately, the location of the tent was at the edge of the playground. Mike only needed to avoid the reporters in front of him to take the girl out of school. The 3 girls of the devil body group in the back understood what Mike meant. They were also sensible enough to help Mike and his team stop most of the reporters. The 3 girls of the devil body group, who have debuted for more than 3 months, seemed to be much more comfortable facing reporters. Moreover, this group of reporters was also an opportunity for the devil body group. A correct version in the 16:9 book and 1 bar. An opportunity for their group to have more exposure. Princess, Sports Supernova, Devil Body Group, any of these 3 terms is worthy of being published in the newspaper alone. Now these 3 elements are combined together, and they are entangled with gossip. Just think about it, it is a super big news. As long as Miracle Company handles it properly, the Devil Body Group will definitely be able to borrow the light of Mike and Princess Maya this time. However, this kind of news heat is not a good thing for Maya, the future princess. At the school gate, Maya, who had temporarily escaped from the harassment of reporters, shook off Mike's arm and said with a complicated expression, "Let's stop here. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore." This ordinary girl also has her own self-esteem and knows that it is not good to continue to fight with Mike. But Mike's heroic rescue just now made the girl feel safe again. She was afraid that, if she stayed with him for a while longer, she would lose her heart. Therefore, the girl urgently needed to make a gesture of keeping people away and build a high wall for her heart. Now is not the time to be angry. I have to send you to Queen Regina as soon as possible. Mike looked at the reporters who were about to catch up from behind and said, "What does this have to do with my grandma?" Too many things happened today, making Maya lose the ability to think calmly. Have you ever thought that, if your identity is leaked, Queen Regina's itinerary will definitely not be hidden? The leak of the secret itinerary means big trouble for the Queen. Mike explained briefly. No matter what, Queen Regina is the highest leader of a country. This time, in order to quietly train her granddaughter into a qualified royal princess, She would amaze everyone in the Genovese royal family. She acted very low-key this time, and even did not bring a bodyguard team. In this case, the itinerary being exposed means danger. After Mike's reminder, Maya also realized the seriousness of the matter. Without time to think about it, she immediately got into Mike's car and rushed to the villa where Queen Regina was. More than half an hour later, Mike, with his superb driving skills, got rid of the reporter convoy that followed like a dogskin plaster behind him and went to the Queen's luxurious villa in the suburbs. Maya and Mike, why are you here? What's the matter? Queen Regina, who was wearing pajamas and ready to rest, was a little surprised when she saw Mike and the two in the living room. The incident happened suddenly, and Mike didn't care about being rude and quickly told Maya about the exposure of her identity. Okay, I already know the situation. Queen Regina's mood did not change much. Then, she had the leisure to thank Mike specially, and then asked the butler to send him out of the villa. Maya, you will stay here for a few days. I will ask someone to bring your mother over later. In the luxurious villa, Queen Regina arranged her granddaughter to stay in a guest room. Obviously, it was related to the safety of her family, and Her Majesty the Queen was not as calm as she appeared. Then, after the butler sent the people back, Queen Regina continued, Joe, go and gather my guards. From now on, we need to strengthen the security around the villa. After receiving the instructions, Mr. Butler gradually lost his gentle temperament and his eyes became cold. Next, Mr. Kao first called the captain of the kingdom guard lurking in the town of Telford to gather them, and then went to the room to prepare some defensive weapons. Not long after, the fully armed Mr. Kao was outside the villa and met the reporters who came after hearing the news. Then, with the momentum of one man blocking the gate and 10,000 men unable to open, he stopped the group of reporters in place. Chapter 299 Returning home early. On a weekend afternoon, in the living room of Regina's villa, Mike, the three girls from the Devil Body group, and Lina were lying comfortably on the sofa watching the documentary on TV. After working overtime at the Texas TV station, Mike's growth documentary has been completed. The emotional commentary on TV, combined with the wonderful clips of Mike on the football field, made the documentary feel exciting. At the end of the more than 1 hour documentary, some interviews with Mike's teammates, coaches, school leaders, and even passers-by were broadcast. It can be said that the entire documentary has created an image of Mike with strong athletic ability and a sunny and cheerful personality. This image is very pleasing, not only among young people, but also among adults. Congratulations, Mike. You are now much more famous than our Devil Body group. This time we also benefited from your light. After watching the documentary, Regina smiled jokingly. At this time, on the table in Regina's living room, there were entertainment dailies issued in various places. Most of the color headlines have Mike's headshot printed on them, including handsome pictures of Mike clinking glasses when he won the Summer League, and gossip pictures of him hugging women. This has made him a favorite of traffic. In fact, the popularity of a regional league championship is not so high, but Mike's extraordinary appearance, coupled with the scandal with a princess of a neighboring country, makes his popularity seem to have wings. As the other party of the scandal, the Devil Body group also reaped the dividends of this wave of traffic. Their new album this year has sold tens of thousands more copies in the past 2 days. However, Miracle Company also knows that it is time to stop while it is good. The three girls of the Devil Body group debuted as country girls, and they will also follow the route of Girls Next Door in the next few years. So although the traffic of this wave of scandals is huge, considering the long-term development of the girls, Miracle Company still did public relations for them to clarify the scandals when the girls were reluctant. In exchange, Miracle Company also agreed to let the girls rest for 2 more days in the town of Telford. Today is the 2nd day. Mike, I've been learning yoga recently. Are you interested in checking it out? Regina, who was lying on the sofa in cool clothes, asked teasingly. The three girls of the Devil Body group usually appear innocent outside, but they seem to be the same in front of Mike, an acquaintance. Seeing the girls' straightforward appearance, Mike was about to challenge them. But at this moment, his portable phone rang. Mike, you can't guess how many viewers your documentary has this time. Jack's excited voice came from the other end of the phone. Is it more than 10 percentage points? Mike guessed casually. It's very close, but it's still a little short. Jack, who was in an excited state, seemed to be eager to share the good news with others, so he didn't keep it a secret. It's a full 13 percentage points, which is simply a miracle. Nowadays, the popularity of household television is very high. The 13 percentage point ratings means that 13 out of 100 households with televisions watched this documentary. If each family is counted as 3 people, the population base is not small. It can be said that with the publicity from all sides, Mike has become the hottest celebrity in Texas. Jack, who produced the documentary, can obviously also reap the dividends. With the documentary's achievements, his future promotion path in the TV station will surely be smooth sailing. This is also the main reason why Jack is so excited. There is also good news. Taking advantage of this popularity, your posters have sold more than 200,000 copies. In the next period of time, they will only sell more. Jack, who did not know Mike's real net worth, continued excitedly, "Congratulations, Mike, you are about to become a rich man. The cost of making posters is not high, and the main point is to exchange fame for money. Even if a poster sells for 1 million yuan, then more than 200,000 copies will be more than 200,000 million yuan. If it is divided 50 to 50, Mike can probably get more than 100,000 yuan. Of course, Jack and his team can also get more than 100,000 yuan. Congratulations, congratulations," Mike replied with a smile, and then asked, "Anything else? If not, I'll hang up first." However, a dividend of more than 100,000 yuan is not worth making a fuss about for Mike, whose assets in the stock market have doubled. He hung up the phone soon. "Who's calling? Did something good happen?" Regina asked after watching Mike hang up the phone with a smile. "It's about the poster release. I made more than 100,000 yuan this time." Mike didn't hide anything, and simply told her about his cooperation with the TV station. TSK, it's not difficult to make money with your current fame. Regina, who has already entered the circle of fame and fortune, already knows how to monetize her fame. If you want, you can be the image spokesperson for Karen's Beef Burgers. You can probably get 1 million yuan a year in endorsement fees. In fact, except for Gretchen, who comes from a working class family, the other 3 girls at the scene are all from wealthy families. 100,000 yuan is not a big deal for them. What's more, the girls' current careers have broadened their horizons. In this era, a good album can earn between 10 and 100 million yuan. In terms of earning power, singers even earn more than movie stars. And earning power often represents status. Okay, let's not talk about this. I just want to see how you are doing with yoga. Mike turned over and pulled Regina up. Then, the other 3 girls also joined the yoga training. Flexibility +1. Flexibility +1. Holy Spear experience +1. Read the correct version in the 16:9 book forum. At the same time, in Queen Rianadi's large villa in the suburbs, a TV just finished playing Mike's personal documentary. In order to ensure the safety of the Queen and her family, the villa has been filled with fully armed bodyguards patrolling around the clock. Have you found out who leaked the news? Queen Rianadi sat elegantly as usual. In front of her, in addition to the TV, there were also several entertainment dailies issued in various places. I have found out. It's Paul, the stylist who did Maya's styling. Mr. Kao said seriously, "Do you need me to give him some warnings?" Because Princess Maya's transformation plan had to be kept secret from the Genovese royal family, her image stylist was a local Migo. Paul was a well-known stylist invited from the Big Apple by Queen Rianadi through the embassy under such circumstances. The stylist's professional level is indeed very high, but his professional ethics do not seem to be very good. He had signed a confidentiality document in advance, and it was obvious that he sold Princess Maya's identity to the newspaper for the sake of profit. Let the people from the embassy communicate. I just want the results. And find someone to deal with the news in these newspapers. As a queen, Rianadi has a strong side. The stylist's act of leaking secrets has been characterized as a diplomatic incident by Queen Rianadi in one sentence. It can be imagined that his end this time will not be too good. Also, what is the situation in Genovia? Queen Rianadi continued to ask. Not very good. It seems that someone over there is deliberately spreading rumors about Princess Maya. At this point, Mr. Kaio's face became more serious. It has only been 2 days, and the rumors about Maya, the future princess of the kingdom, have already spread in Genovia. It would be strange to say that there is no one behind all this, and the identity of the mastermind is also easy to guess. They are nothing more than Queen Rienida's enemies in the internal politics of the Genovia royal family. These people don't want to see the queen train another qualified heir. Is that so? Queen Rienida fell into deep thought after listening to the report. The small country of Genovia has always maintained the original planting economic model. Only after the discovery of a large number of minerals in recent years, it has an industrial operation model. Queen Rienida advocates sustainable and people-friendly development, which means using the profits obtained from mining in the kingdom every year to subsidize the planting economy and make people's lives richer. It's just that Queen Rienida's people-friendly behavior has made many royal family members and ministers of the kingdom dissatisfied. They think that more farmers in the kingdom should be allowed to join in the mining so as to create more benefits for the kingdom. It can be said that the interest teams of both sides are already class contradictions. There is less than a month left until the Genovia royal family dinner. Queen Rienida suddenly asked, "Maya, I want to take you back to Genovia in advance. And Helen, you haven't been home for many years." Obviously, what is happening in Genovia has made Queen Rienida plan to return home early. Chapter 300 Returning Home Early, continued. Genovia is in the transition period between the old and new economic models. The will of the next leader of the kingdom will determine the development prospects of this small country in the next few decades or even hundreds of years. This is why Queen Rienida values her granddaughter so much. She wants to train Maya to be a queen who cares about the livelihood of the people like herself. If I leave, what will happen to the school? Maya still doesn't understand her grandmother's intention, but she is in conflict with Mike and does have the idea of escaping. Maybe going to Genovia to relax is a good choice. Joe will ask for leave for you at school. Queen Rienida replied. Maya seriously underestimated the influence of a royal family member. In fact, she can go to any school at any time if she wants. This includes the top universities that Migo attended. Okay, I'm willing to go to the place where my father lived. Maya, who has no worries, agreed to the proposal to return home early. Of course, a large part of the reason is that she doesn't know how to go to school to face Mike now. Obviously, escaping is shameful but useful. What about you, Helen? Queen Rienida turned to look at Maya's mother. For Maya, Genovia is a completely unfamiliar place. Being accompanied by familiar relatives will help her adapt to local life faster. Compared with her daughter, Helen actually understands what Maya will face better. The mother pondered for a while and said, "I will always be with Maya and protect her from the wind and rain." Helen, who was not used to the rules and regulations in the royal family and chose to separate from her husband, this time, for the sake of her daughter, she resolutely chose to return to Genovia. Very good, that's decided. Seeing the choice of Helen and her daughter, Queen Rienida smiled with relief, and then continued, "Don't worry. With me here, no one in Genovia can bully you. No matter how noisy the radicals in Genovia are, Queen Rienida is the real helmsman of the kingdom today. She has the confidence to protect her relatives." Then, Her Majesty the Queen asked the butler to arrange the return trip for several people. When only 3 ladies were left in the room, Queen Rienida said with concern, "Maya, tell me, what's going on between you and Mike now?" In the past 2 days, Her Majesty has learned about Mike's philandering from the newspapers and the housekeeper. She was actually quite satisfied with Mike, a young man, because he was smart, handsome, and clever. But he couldn't bully her granddaughter. The reason why Queen Rienida hasn't bothered Mike yet is that she wants to see her granddaughter's attitude first. I don't know," Maya said with a complicated expression. When she first knew Mike's true face, the girl was actually very angry. But after 2 days, she seemed not so angry after calming down. Just looking at the intimate appearance of Mike with other girls in the newspaper, Maya still felt heartbroken. Young people's affairs should be solved by themselves. Besides, I believe in my daughter's charm. Helen, who saw her daughter's entanglement, secretly gave her a thumbs up to encourage her. This mother, who is full of artistic cells, has always been supportive of her daughter's emotional affairs. If you like it, go grab it. Okay, Queen Regina, who saw that her granddaughter still had deep feelings for Mike, did not force her, but said kindly, emotions are also part of growth. If you have any troubles in this regard in the future, you can always come to me, or your mother to talk. Time flies, and when it comes to school again, Maya has accompanied her grandmother and mother on the flight to Genovia. At the same time, the girls' gossip and entertainment newspapers and magazines disappeared overnight, as if it had never happened. Obviously, this is Queen Regina's effort. As for Mike, he received a call from the butler after sending away the 3 girls of the Devil Body group. On the phone, the butler informed him of Princess Maya's itinerary in a serious tone. And then there was nothing else. Of course, this situation is much better than Mike imagined. After all, he was considered to have scummed a princess without any retaliation. Principal Tom, Peggy, Sheldon and I would like to take a long vacation, probably until October. Mike led the 2 little ones to the principal's office during normal class time. It was the end of August, and as far as Mike knew, Maya's royal family banquet would be held at the end of September. On the other hand, Professor John's Nobel project also needed to be submitted to the Nobel jury before October, and of course, a review time would need to be reserved. In other words, Professor John's Nobel project would actually produce results in mid-September. This gave Mike a time difference. He could completely help Professor John complete the research project first, and then go to Genovia to find Maya and seek the girls' forgiveness. In the principal's office, after knowing the reason why Mike and the other 2 asked for leave, Principal Tom decisively approved a long-term leave note for them, and the 3 of them were able to take a long vacation so easily this time, and a large part of the reason was that Principal Tom was willing to give Mike, the champion of the Summer League, some convenience. A correct version in 16,191 book and 1 bar. Great, we can spend more time on scientific research projects in the future. Little Sheldon, who got the leave note and left school, seemed extremely excited. Professor John's research project thruster recovery has now reached the most critical period. In order to catch up with this year's Nobel Prize selection, the researchers in the project now wish they could use 1 day as 2 days. Compared with other groups, Mike's 3-person team has gradually lagged behind other groups in research progress because they have to take care of school. However, the order of the Nobel application list is ranked according to the project contribution. In this case, a little Sheldon, who has a strong desire to win, naturally does not want to be just a foil. Now that he has the opportunity to rank higher, he is naturally very happy. Okay, let's go. Mike, sitting in the red Ferrari, looks in a good mood. Although he had predicted before that it would be difficult for Professor John's research project to win the Nobel Prize this time. But the research project has been carried out to this point, and I don't need this last step. There is a saying that is very good: there is always a dream in case it comes true. Think about it, if you can win the Nobel Prize as a high school student, it will be another important achievement in life. With the roar of the sports car, Mike drove Peggy and little Sheldon to the University of Texas. Walking on the university campus, Mike, a popular celebrity in Texas, was frequently watched by college students. Obviously, many of them have watched Mike's documentary or heard about his deeds. However, as a top-ranked university in Texas, the quality of students at the University of Texas is not bad. Therefore, there was no situation of intercepting Mike halfway, asking for his autograph, or chatting him up. Congratulations, Mike. Football is great. Professor John in the laboratory sent his blessings. Although the old professor did not pay attention to football, he had heard about Mike's deeds. Then, he looked at Mike and the other 2 in confusion and asked, "What are you doing?" Professor John is a very democratic person. He did not force Mike and the other 2 to do anything because of his research project. Therefore, he did not think that Mike and the other 3 would ask for a long vacation from the school because of the research project. It's like this, Professor John, we have asked for a long vacation from the school. Mike told the matter of asking for leave and stated that his group could take over more work. Perfect, you came on time. Professor John, who was overwhelmed by the research project, expressed a strong welcome to the arrival of Mike and the other 3. Afterwards, he handed over the more important work to Mike's team. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like, Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.